So I do have one story to start this week, or to start this episode.
Do tell.
Okay. During IFF last month, because it's been that long, I decided to get lunch across the street at the Simcoe food court, basically beside the CBC building.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thing. It was kind of weird, or maybe not surprising, but more than half the outlets in that food court were closed because, it was a Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a Saturday, and the ones that did actually probably did some okay business. So out of all the things that were open, there was a McDonald's, a
Bourbon Grill.
Oh, you remember, you saw it.
Because I got their end of special and they just kept on giving me stuff for $10 and I couldn't eat all of it. Like I left a quarter of it I had to get rid of because it was just piled high.
Mm-hmm.
It was just whatever they had and they threw it and they said, oh yeah, you can just take this in a ginger ale for $10. Yes. And I'm like, oof.
I settled on a falafel shawarma place. Which,
oh yeah, that was in the corner there.
Yes.
What was the other one? Oh, that was beside the McDonald's. Yeah,
which was run by like this elderly Chinese couple.
Hey, they know their falafels.
Yes, it was funny because while waiting for my my falafel pita to grill up, and I was paying for it, the guy. The owner we had a nice quick conversation, and he mentioned, what's going on? Business is a little bit better than it would be for a Saturday. I mentioned, and he knew, and I mentioned the convention across the street, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of young people today, a lot of young people. And then he took a really, really long stare at me. Like just looked at me as if,
you're not over the hill, Mike, don't worry.
As if I didn't really fit into the crowd that was there today. And then after
you look like a typical Bay Street or CBC person. Don't worry, that's your goal. Don't.
Well, I remember the turning point for Roundtable was the visit to the CBC, but he just looked at me for like a minute while we were waiting for my pita to grill, and then I just simply said, "Yeah, I'm getting there."
Expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
So, anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about IFF a little later on. But let's just get started by saying good evening from our remote studio. We're not at the 6 Point studio tonight in Etobicoke. We're somewhere in Mississauga. We won't really say exactly where, but we are within a stone, or maybe we will give you a sense. We are within a stone's throw of...
Can't believe it. Now you've given them more hope of finding us, Mike. You could have said Peel, and then it would have been more interesting. Where are they?
Well, yes.
Are they in Caledon? Are they in Brampton?
We are a stone's throw away from Streetsville, where the Visser brothers once lived. Mm-hmm. Where the Comic Den brothers once lived.
Where we once taped.
Yeah, and where we taped a couple episodes of the show during the Comic Den era, obviously. So this is episode 9 of Anime Roundtable version 2. The usual gang around the table: Mike Nicholas, James Austin, Mohammed Shamarki, Kevin Ing are here, and I apologize for not being around. It's been 2 months since the last time. This episode is long overdue, and due to various things like TCAF, like IFF, which had our attention. In my case, I actually fell ill. I've been sick for a couple weeks, so at least we're finally able to do this on this Friday evening, May 17th,
before a long weekend,
before the Victoria Day weekend here in Canada, and a week before Anime North. So obviously we'll be talking quite a bit about those things a bit later on. But in the meantime, Mr. Shamarki was nice enough to bring some snacks from H Mart back downtown.
True.
Yes, and So we appreciate it. A couple Pocky, some what is that? What type of candy is that?
I don't know.
Oh, you bought it? You don't know. Wow. It's like it could be poison. We don't know.
Oh, it looks.
You can't read it.
Is it a hard candy or is it a chewy candy?
It's a chewy candy.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Which one is the one that kills you?
You have a 1 in 4 chance.
And he was nice enough to bring everybody bottles of ramune. So excuse us for 1 second while we attempt to open these. Let's see who can do it successfully without spilling anything on this table.
Put a cover on it. So
Yeah, just put a...
Ready?
Give me a second here. I have to stand up. Just, lean into it. There you go. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah, we were trying to, get the marble in. Nah, I got mine, thank you.
Oh, sweet. Nothing spilled.
Great. Kevin? Still trying? James? Come on! Come on! Come on! Do you need any help?
Yes.
Do you need any help?
I need some adult supervision,
Here,
please.
let me get
Thank you.
Let me
I
get this a
needed
shot.
some adult
Remember,
supervision. Now
the
I can't
idea
do
is-
it.
You got it,
just-
Kevin. You got it, Kevin. I believe in you.
What the hell happened here?
It's just not gonna happen, is it? It's not gonna happen, Mike. We can't do it. Oh, you did what I could not. Thank you.
Kevin, you got it.
You need the
I pretend that I wasn't opening mine the whole time.
you need the Nicholas touch. Give it to Mike.
Take off all right, my suggestion now, take off the cover and then lean your palm into that.
Oh, yeah. You got it. 3.
Oh, there you go.
So my first suggestion was actually the better one. Just take that
Lean
whole,
into
just lean, just take off, just dismantle it.
Cheers,
gentlemen. Cheers, gentlemen. He bought some ramune. Okay, way to go, gentlemen.
Yep.
And here's the story I want to, and I did mention I want to tell a little story. So, excuse me there. I did want to tell a little bit of a story. So, ooh, some of it got in my hands. Give me a second.
Just what the listeners wanted to hear.
Just a little sticky there.
That's what he said.
Okay, so what was the year? I think we're talking maybe 2003, 2004 during FanExpo. I guess now it's FanExpo. During the CN Anime phase of FanExpo, of what is now FanExpo.
I miss CN Anime.
I think many do, but let's talk about. And as
It's
I said,
still there in some weird mutant form, but
Not really.
that's about it.
well,
Not really.
And as I said, we'll
That's why I
we'll
said
have
mutant
a
form.
longer conversation about this a bit later on. But over the initial years, we had guests like the voices from Pokemon. So on the topic of Pokemon, since Detective Pikachu came out last week.
Watch it.
No, I
yet.
haven't, but I know it's number 1 in the box office right now.
I need to see
No,
it still.
I did not.
Okay, so
Question is, how do I now catch Ryan Reynolds on Pokemon Go?
so let's.
Spoiler alert, man. Come on.
So here we go.
You use the AR camera, and after you take some pictures of the Pokemon, Detective Pikachu will come out eventually.
Or do I just throw the phone at Ryan Reynolds if I just happen to see him and then hope I'm not arrested?
No.
Well, it's nice knowing you, James.
Nice knowing you, dude. Nice knowing you. Okay, so the now I remember roughly 2001, 2002. Okay, Rachel. In the initial years, Lisa Ortiz, Rachel Lillis. They had Lisa Ortiz is known for her voice as played as the English voice behind Lena Inverse in Slayers.
Yeah, and they were doing stuff in
And she did-
Utena as well. I
she did-
remember,
she was
like
in
because I
Utena.
remember they were promoting those heavily back then, right?
Yes.
And that was part of it too, along
Yeah,
with Pokemon.
so in the early aughts, and obviously it went into the early aughts. So they came down for the show. They've come. Rachel Lillis plays Misty in the Pokemon dub.
Oh.
Lisa Ortiz had various female voices, but was it Jenny or Joy she played? Oh, she played Officer Jenny, I think. The various incarnations of Officer Jenny in the dub. A couple of years later, Veronica Taylor visited, and she's the
Ash.
she's the voice of Ash, and
The original voice of Ash.
yes, thank you. Okay, so the original voice of Ash visited, and she was with her daughter at the time, who probably couldn't have been more than 10 years old, but I'd say I would peg the daughter at the time a little younger. And as a gift, I think if memory serves me right, I may have sat in. I may have actually moderated her Q&A, but my memory is now a little blurry. But I did sit in on it, and we had and remember I was still on staff at the time with FanExpo. But one of the things I did was I gave her a bottle of ramune. So, and she told me the next day, I remember I bought multiple bottles of ramune for the game shows that day because we gave a couple bottles.
Yeah, that
away.
was before we had the 1 year reprieve.
Yeah,
I remember that.
We
won't forget that.
We did that. Now I remember.
And we
yeah,
still
we did.
and we took over from you and did for many years before it finally petered out.
Yeah. So we did that, and then I had one extra bottle left, and I gave it to Veronica Taylor, and she told me the next day she and her daughter had fun having drinks at it, having it. So we gave away. I think we had a drinking contest with ramune, and I think the winner got a couple extra bottles, and then the loser of that drinking contest, to see who could guzzle down an entire bottle in front of us.
Yeah.
Open it and guzzle down an entire bottle. We gave like a couple extra bottles to them, and then the loser, I think of that, we gave like a couple cans of Coke, but they were only like this big.
Oh, the small ones,
cans
the
that
6
existed
packs.
at the time.
Oh God, yeah.
We gave that. It was. I thought it was a good joke at the time. Anyway, that's the story I have about ramune. So about these ramune. So thanks, Mohammed. On the topic, he also brought some chewy candy, some Pocky as well. So 2 types of Pocky, one banana, one green tea. Because he had that, it was either that or the green tea Kit Kats.
Or the green tea arrows, or the green tea whatever.
Well, the green tea arrows, I'm still curious to ever try them. Should they ever, ever exist? Or should they?
They're starting to dump, Mike.
Should they actually be anywhere out there or in season or whatever?
They don't grow on trees. I don't think they might.
No, it's still a fair statement to make.
I'd like to think, but and by the way, one other thing we're taping this on Friday evening. We are watching keeping one eye on the Toronto Raptors Milwaukee Bucks game 2.
Don't worry, Mike.
Raptors
They'll
are down
do
by-
what all sports teams do and what the
Toronto?
Leafs did this year, and
Lose.
they give us
Suck.
all this hope,
Lose.
and then then they screw us.
Keep false hope alive. Okay, much to talk about here. So, where do we start? First of all, what type of snacks are these?
They're just delicious. That's what they are. I don't know what they are, but they're just delicious.
Yeah, and get closer to the mic, please. So there's that.
I don't think you want wrestling on the mic there.
No. Okay, so where do you want? Where do we start tonight? Well, let's
Thought you wanted to do a little culture.
Let's talk a little culture. Okay, so this is also episode 9. Also marks the first episode of the Reiwa Era back in Japan. As maybe a lot of, probably most of you know, Japan has a new emperor. Emperor Akihito abdicated at the end of April, and then the very next day,
I think it was a little more than that. It was a 2-year process almost.
Which culminated at the end of April, and then the next day, his son Naruhito.
And it's crazy how it took so long just to get that done, because there could have been so many things they needed to reform. But in a constitutional monarchy, it takes a lot of things, and they only have one country to worry about, unlike the Commonwealth, where Queen Elizabeth is the head of many countries, and that took a lot just to allow Charlotte just to keep her place in line in the throne.
Yeah, whereas any woman has no place in line in Japan, right?
Yeah, well, it is a paternal society and stuff like that, and a paternal monarchy. The way they revised it after the war again, because some of that played in as well.
Yeah, NHK. Just for reference, and I know. Sort of on topic or off topic, I know, but NHK World did air a 3-part documentary about Akihito, the outgoing emperor, and it's an interesting watch if you don't mind a good almost 3 hours of your time for each part. It's like an hour good hour, 20 minutes each part, so you can watch them, and they'll be up on the NHK World website and your apps if you have them until this point next year. So yeah, plenty of time to watch that. This stuff, the emperor always holds a small fascination, like any royalty does, and royalty in general, I think would. And obviously, we talk a lot about European monarchs, the British monarchy. So I want to save a couple minutes just to talk Japanese monarchy because, well, let's face it, this is we talk at Japanese anime. I think we should. Why not save a couple minutes here? Mm-hmm. So it's just I want to at least acknowledge it and acknowledge the changing of the era, acknowledge what's how things have changed, what can be what lies ahead maybe for the country where much of what we talk about comes from, right? But from Akihito to Naruhito, like we're talking the first emperor who was born after World War II.
And the first educated outside Japan because it was Oxford, wasn't it?
He went to Oxford.
Yep. And then did he go somewhere else? But I know he was a lot of foreign experience, and his wife, of course, as well.
Yeah. And
is very foreign.
This is like, we're talking some very odd dynamics at play. And this is and I know, and maybe too much for the scope of what we're going to talk of this show right now, but still a nice, interesting way to touch on it.
It's kind of an interesting thing thinking about because they're more an internal society, whereas their new emperor and empress are more, they've been out in the external world, you know what I mean? Unlike a lot of people probably in Japan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they bring these different elements, even though it's just, it's like most monarchies, they're there for show. Mm-hmm. They can't intervene or anything like that unless it's a constitutional crisis.
And it's even more so in this case, I think, because the government really has a lot more control. I think really has quite a bit more control in some ways, and they don't in others. But so a lot of it always depends on the government of the day. And I could foresee, like, there was a hint of like, we never really got a sense, but I get the feeling there would have been some philosophical differences between Akihito and the government and the Imperial Household Agency, which runs the monarchy, or which oversees that part. And then I could see it even being more so with Naruhito because of his Western education, and Masako and Empress Masako because of her of her education. She by trade she's a diplomat, and her father served in the World Court as well. And he's a career diplomat.
But as we saw, it's like she definitely stepped back, and even then, she was put under intense pressure.
Yeah, and let's put it that way. That's sort of the tensions at work there. But Masako could be really interesting because now with her finally becoming empress, she's kind of stepped forward a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was going through that time. He was married. They had to get an heir and stuff like that. They only have 2 heirs basically left. Like they are almost an endangered species. Just like how
no, it isn't. That's
just like how. And we talked about Mike how they were thinking of bringing back concubines and how Hirohito had concubines.
No, the way you said that, I thought you said they were going to bring back cows, and I thought, but they already have cows in Japan.
But this is but as I said, here's the dynamics at work here, right? Let's just to quickly and I don't want to touch too much more on this because let's be honest. But what is this? Yeah, you mentioned 3 heirs. So there are 3 heirs to 2 other men in line. The succession runs from Naruhito now as the emperor. The next in line to the throne is his younger brother Fumihito, and then number 3 in line, and he's probably going to be the key one, Prince Hisahito, the 11-year-old Fumihito's 11-year-old son. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the young man when the time comes.
And then the other thing is they said the way they set it up too after the war, all the females, once they marry out, they're out of the royal family. It's like it's like very, very tiny. It gets tinier and tinier, unlike other royal families and stuff like that, even though some of them have tried to streamline.
So let me ask this. As the emperor, what do you do?
You're a symbol of the nation. Basically, that's what you are. And that's what most monarchies are. They're a symbol to the nation. Now, of course, that's the same of promoting the culture and promoting the country and tourism and stuff like that, especially in the case of the British monarchy for when they go to the different spots because people come, right?
Mm-hmm. It's weird because only in recent weeks did I get familiar with the term symbol of the state as opposed to head of state, because that's what the emperor is, not the head of state.
Yeah, no, that was a big deal, like for MacArthur and the Americans, because they wanted to make sure that it didn't happen again. So they specifically said, you're not the head of government anymore.
Or
like
head of
all
state.
the other monarchies, they're just a symbol.
Yeah.
And he's not a living god, remember, because he was still thought of as a living god, Hirohito.
But the monarchy still holds a rallying point regardless. But where it starts to get murky, then the debate really starts to open up. And as I said, this isn't necessarily the forum to talk at length about it. But I did want to acknowledge what has happened. And there is longer debates concerning where like what the new era as a checkpoint means for Japan.
I guess we could have always had a lighter tone on the Reiwa era and basically said for the last era, the Showa era or whatever.
Enlightened.
What was the best anime of the last 30 years?
Evangelion.
Evangelion. Well, okay, so let's
Pokemon.
briefly talk about
I saw a few
transition.
gaming sites and different things they were talking about
get the heck outta
each
here.
decade of the Showa era and basically what happened. It was kind of intriguing.
Digimon is a good show. I won't lie.
And like the first one they talk about is the Game Boy, because the Game Boy was the first big thing or electronic or game system released because it was January, I think, when he came in '89 for Akihito.
Yeah, so we're talking about touch points in Japanese pop culture during that time. Mm-hmm. Okay, anime-wise, obviously there was a fair amount there. I mean, the irony is, I think there was a focus to his fans. There was a focus on
what about Japan?
Well, because Yoshiki was kind of front and center. Remember, we have one of our regular listeners who's a big fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
he plays a mean piano.
Yes, he does.
I've seen him play. He's a mean pianist.
I remember somebody saying, referring to his. I remember somebody referring to Yoshiki's career as a man whose career has spanned the entire Heisei era, right? So he's considered one of those key guys in the music industry, in music history for Japan in recent history. So there's something like that. We talked about anime. I guess we can let's not go we can go ad nauseum about some of the great stuff that came along during the 90s, during the aughts, and right up until during the entire 30-year span of the era. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as I said, I had fascination because, when Masako, Empress Masako married into the family, obviously she drew comparisons to Diana, because people to Diana at the time. So, I have a couple newspaper clippings from the day, and then obviously, sadly, there's been enough tension that it's paralleled Diana in many ways with the tough times that she's had in the family.
Except her husband stood up for her, and they're still happily married.
As I said, there's an interesting dynamic at play, and maybe we'll save that for another discussion or off microphone discussion some other time. Which is once again an encouragement for people to come and see the show taped live, and we'll be talking about that.
Can't believe you're just going to let people into your home, Mike.
I'm not talking about that.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I know, right?
No, it wouldn't be the first time.
What would your family member Mo think of that?
Absolutely, Mike.
Oh boy.
Hey, I came into this and I just see Mo just chilling in the corner of Mike's home. Like he's a part of the family. Mo Nicholas.
Well, we were watching something.
What member of the family just chills in the corner?
Well, when he came in.
The outcast, that's who.
So let's get off of that now. I mean, I've said my piece for now.
So
recap.
I learned recently because of Anime World Order that the Reiwa is also a song sung by
I know
Yui Sakakibara.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
for a visual novel.
I know where you're going with this.
Buraban, The Bonds of Melody.
I knew they'd bring up some. I knew one of us was, because that's kind of known.
That I heard that and I'm like, what?
I'm sure the symbol is just that they looked and it's like, okay, we might as well just show this, but we can't, so we'll show this other more respectable.
We can talk about the literal translation and the official translations of the word Reiwa as well. That's, as I said, this takes on a bunch of different.
And so people were just laughing at the fact that it shares the name of a song that was used for a hentai visual novel.
Yeah, no, and well, there's a lot of missteps here in the term.
No,
right?
I think Japan knows what it's doing. They're Japan.
Yes. Well, they had but the thing is, there's a punchline in it in and of itself. Okay, so here we go. We planned to tape an episode as a bridge between International Fan Festival, which took place back towards the end of April. What was the dates again? Just so
Easter weekend. Let's put it that way. Easter weekend. We spent a Good Friday.
Yes, we did.
At the convention center.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was a Good Friday, but
19th to the
Good
21st, almost exactly a month ago. We want to do this. We want to do an episode as a bridge between IFF and Anime North with a little TCAF, obviously. So we sit in this in a very odd time of the year for anime fandom here in Toronto.
Yep.
For anime,
many events.
Yeah, all packed into roughly the space of just over a month.
And there were also some movies too. So it's like if you were an anime fan, you had much choice.
You know, as I said, we're watching the Raptors game. This is tough to watch at the moment. Raptors are down 35-21.
He had a clear view.
Okay. This is not going to end well, by the way.
Oh, no.
Okay, so...
Are you saying they should send out the scrubs?
They should.
Maybe. Okay, so in this episode, I do want to talk at length about what we saw at IFF. I didn't get it because I was sick. I didn't get a chance to see TCAF. But Kevin and James, they can speak to that. Mohammed has nothing to offer to these conversations because he was at none of this.
Oh man,
he's a part of your family, Mike. Come on.
So,
we're family.
Well, although he had a good reason, at least on IFF, because it was his birthday. Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Cool. So, well, where do we start? I guess we start at
the beginning.
Well,
perhaps?
yes. I guess we start at IFF.
Well, it's like we can talk about lines, and more lines because that was a constant theme.
I think that hinted at a lot of things. Let me get to, that hinted. The lineups were, oh God, right?
Like Friday was okay. We knew we were like, it was kind of like a chill day on Friday because the main guests they were promoting for the Fate series and stuff like that. Supposedly they must have just flew them in because they said they were just kind of there. So I'm surprised they made it through. I'm not sure if they even knew they were in Toronto because it was like they're in, they're out.
Well, this gets interesting, right? Like that gets a little bit, well, interesting, I suppose.
Because, and they were like, Saturday and Sunday were the days they were there.
And
and they heavily promoted all those guests. And the ones they heavily promoted, people definitely came to see.
Yes, and it filled up.
Because I know we were talking about how's it going to go, and it had, as we said, the CN anime vibe, the vibe of old.
Well, yeah, the CN anime vibe, because it was taking place literally in the same space.
Yep, in the same space
at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. When FanExpo invades the center, I think it takes both buildings now, right?
Nowadays it does.
It does?
Yeah, but most of the south, because that's where most of the spaces and stuff like that.
Yes. This one IFF took place in the north building, which was traditionally where, like in the early days of FanExpo, FanExpo worked between the two, were solely in either building. But then at a point, and I stopped being involved in it just some years before it started to take up over both buildings.
Mm-hmm. And so then went more to the south because the south was the larger
it stayed
space
there
and stuff
for
like
a bit for some years, and now it's expanded into both buildings. It's like Toronto. It's like the auto show. It's auto show-esque in that sense, I suppose, because I know the auto show takes both buildings. Or correct me if I'm wrong. So the International Fan Festival took the North Building. Friday night wasn't all that busy. It was to be expected. The Japanese guests of honor.
Though I think people did come for the Fate.
And
the second Fate movie. They did another screening at that, and I think that was the precursor where you knew, okay, this is what people are here for.
Yes, Noriaki Sugiyama, Kana Ueda, Ayako Kawasumi, Megumi Nakajima, Konomi Suzuki. Not real. I don't think those aren't voices, but Noriko Shitaya. Those were the Japanese guests of honor, and I think that and the center and much of the programming, much of the hype, much of the talk going into IFF surrounded those Japanese guests.
And they've done that a lot in recent years with a lot of the conventions in North America and stuff like that, where it's like they're trying to promo either a program or something, and they bring a group of voice actors from that series and stuff like that. So Fate was the one they did for this one. Anime Boston was the same weekend. They ended up bringing people over from the City Hunter movie, and people are like, why the hell are they bringing these people over? And then they made the announcement that Discotheque has the new City Hunter movie and all of the previous City Hunter
they got
programs.
Basically, they got the Uber rights.
But not Angel Heart, which is what I actually want.
No, see, but I know Angel Heart's history is touch and go. So, so it's open to some. So there's a debate, I guess, involved in all of that. Okay, so let's continue on Friday night. It was fairly dead. I'm going to say this much about the space. It was small. It was fairly small. I found it fairly small, but
yeah, they didn't take all that large room of the North Building. They took, I'd say, a quarter of it. I would say for the dealer's room and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they didn't need to.
Well, you thought anyway, but then it got real interesting.
They needed another space for. Let's put it this way, for autographs.
Yeah, that's I think the big talking point will be the autographs for the Japanese guests,
and then you have how they set up their ticketing, of course.
Well, the ticket it was
almost it was like a pay to play. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and the people who decided to invest, how much was it? How much was it for the golds and platinums?
I have no idea.
And then the one diamond.
There was the diamond. I think was like over $1,000, and
but wasn't that thing you could go to another one of their conventions or something like that? Because remember, they are based in Vancouver. They had another convention that year in Osaka, and I feel that one would have been interesting because it would have been a different experience to do that in Japan. Like, it would be a different experience, and the fact of, I think it was relationship building to get these guests, because they definitely get really good guests for their Vancouver show and for this show.
And we're talking Anime Revo, right?
Yeah,
and oh, do I even
not
dare say this?
Not Revo, but IFF. They're unrelated.
And I don't want to risk our status as the official podcast of Anime North, but that's all in terms of Japanese guests. That's already a lot better than what Anime North does.
Let's get back to that.
And there was talks about that in the convention.
Yes,
I feel like there were some people discussing that.
And let's get to that. We'll get to that in a bit, because yes, Anime North. You can't talk about IFF right now without talking ultimately about Anime North,
because it was so close.
It's so close, and let's face it, Anime North is an institution. Mm-hmm. But let's get back to that a bit later into the conversation, because we have to kind of acknowledge some of the stuff that, like, a few of the things. Friday night. So the highlight of Friday night was a screening of part 2 of Fate's Stay Heaven's Feel. And
it was definitely a more boisterous crowd than what I described and stuff like that. And it was similar in one of the voice actresses. She came and she was one of the ones that they actually had, like, her and the male lead Shiro, both of them were there, but like at the convention, but she was only there for the screen. And she said something similar to what she said in the small little snippet they did in the theaters, where the North American crowds were more boisterous, I'd say, than the more sedate Japanese crowds.
Let's backtrack.
That'd be Noriko Shitaya who said that, because I know what you're talking about. I've seen that clip. I saw that clip during when when Heaven's Feel Part 2 screened at Cineplex.
Mm-hmm. And she said,
and then you had the director that was scared like shitless, because he's like, why is this camera in my face? Let me get back to work.
And she certainly hinted that, and she actually, Shitaya-san actually did sneak in to watch the screening that night. This is the little, that's the thing that James was hinting at, because while waiting in the lineup, I saw the staff, and they suddenly were gathered around one Japanese woman, and they greeted her in a very high regard, and then they let her into the room. And then I called ahead, and then everybody was let in slowly. Mm-hmm. Everybody, because there was a long line, actually quite a long lineup to get into to watch
And that was the biggest room for the panel rooms and stuff like that.
It was the biggest room for the panel rooms, but maybe I would have been close to saying, well, maybe inadequate for the screening itself.
Because they had one more room that they used for opening ceremonies and the concert, which was downstairs.
Which we'll talk about.
And I think you went to the live recording too.
We'll talk about those in a couple minutes. And they held her in high regard. And then as everybody filed in, I watched everybody filed in. I was probably the very last person to go in because James, I told you, we were touch and go as to whether or not we'd be there. I was touch and go as to whether or not I'd stick around. I thought, maybe this might be interesting. And I admit, I have not watched Fate's Day before.
Really?
Yeah, you went full in since we know how that movie is.
You're like me when I went to go watch Avengers Endgame.
Way to go.
Having seen almost none of it beforehand.
So it meant nothing to you when everything happened.
It was just very entertaining.
It was entertaining.
Just went for the slugfest. That's it.
It was a good one. So, where do we continue here? So, I went in and then I saw that the Shitaya-san, and I thought, and I had to look. I thought they were looking at her, and I took a good look at her face, watching as the lineup was going in. Before the lineup went in, I took a good look and then looked through the program because at my tier, at my level, if you went with the cheapest levels, cheapest ticket tiers, which were only available for a limited time, you didn't get the You didn't get this. You didn't get the program.
Oh, no, you did get the program.
Oh, you did get the program?
Yeah, even us at the
$30 level?
Yep.
Okay.
They better give you the program. Like,
they gave you the program. It was, what was it? It was like that grab bag of goodies or whatever, these knickknacks or whatever that you got at, was it 65 or 70 or something like that? So we didn't get those knickknacks.
But my friend didn't get it. That's why she didn't get that.
But we did get that. Because I know they gave that to me.
Okay, so, and I looked through the program and I saw a picture and I said, is that Shitaya? Is that Shitaya-san? And I thought, And then after I got into the room, I gave you a call and told you, I think she's in here. Mm-hmm. Look in the back, look near the water cooler. Mm-hmm. And I actually want to go up to that water cooler, get a glass of water and then acknowledge her and then just go back to my seat because she admitted this in her Q&A that she did watch the movie, but I don't know how many of the fans knew she was in there.
I don't think many did.
No,
they just kind of were going in to do their thing, you know what I mean? So people are very sedate. And
that's the thing. When it comes to Japanese guests, people almost never know who these people look like. Until they're spotlighted. Until they actually come onto the stage for the first time. It even happened during TCAF when Hideaki Anno showed up.
Is this last year?
No, this was years ago.
A few years ago. And because remember, his wife came.
Moyoko Anno was the actual guest.
She was there. And she was there to support his wife. And so they were going around doing all that. But he was there at the actual TCAF. And he was there supporting. And he was just sitting behind her. And
just hanging out.
Most people said, please don't bother him. But most people just gave a nod and went on.
And they did?
Some people did recognize him.
No, I didn't know they explicitly said, like, don't bother Hideaki Anno.
Yeah, a lot of them, I think there were some people that knew, but they were telling, like, this is for her, so don't try to bother him. Like, I know some people.
I didn't know they actually announced that.
They didn't announce it. It was more like if someone got, I guess, over boisterous or something like that. You know what I mean?
Did a staff member say that?
I can't remember who it was, but it might have been one of the staff. But it was just one of the things where some people at Pride were talking in line, and it was just... Don't, you know what I mean? Don't.
I have a friend who forcefully shook Anno's hand, actually.
Just don't be overly, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but
I just gave him the head nod.
The head nod. I think it was.
I think that like they were okay with that, but you know what I mean? Like going directly up,
and I figured that out, but it also adds to why I think some Japanese guests really appreciate coming to North America. They can walk with a degree of anonymity, right? Mm. And sometimes, if you're enough of a celebrity, you appreciate just having your own personal space when that happens. So I found it really interesting, and plus, she did want to gauge the reactions of the crowd, and while during the screening of the movie, that's why she came in so early. The organizers had constantly kept saying the Japanese guests are nowhere here; they're not actually in town yet. They weren't probably in town. and one of them came.
Come on, of course they're in
town.
And
they just,
but it feels like they were on a tighter schedule.
If they wanted to rest, sure, they can rest. But
that they're at Niagara Falls.
No. I think they were actually tired for them, unlike TCAF, where they actually do bring the guests way ahead of time and take them places. But everyone seems to want to go to Niagara Falls because I guess that's their image. Hey, at least you
that's our only advantage.
At least you got to go to a winery and like get drunk.
That's our only advantage to bring anybody over to Canada. Let's be real here.
I thought it was the CN Tower, Kevin. The CN Tower, the big, massive thing that just goes
circle thing where we play ball stick.
What? What are you even talking about?
What? So
Sky Dome baseball's been funny.
Okay, but
the dome that opens to the sky.
Well, okay, so. But
in the place where they play the hockey,
which has me wondering, let's hope the Japanese guests of honor at least got to see Niagara Falls. So, but you want to gauge the reactions. For many of the people, from what I could gather, a lot of the people who were watching the movie were seeing it for the second time.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you could go back and still get a lot out. And it also, you got a lot out from the panel the next day because they had a panel with all the guests, but it was spotlighting that movie and stuff like that. And they specifically told you, if you're coming to this, you're going to be spoiled.
Yes, you're going to be like you're going to get spoilers.
And that was an interesting insight, another layer to the movie.
Yes, it is. It was to the whole thing. And obviously, each of the guests did individual Q&As beginning on the Saturday.
And many people could get into them for various reasons.
Yes, let's talk about that for a second. This was I think this will be one of the major criticisms of IFF. You had to make some pretty tough choices. Did you want to see a Q&A, or do you want to try and get an autograph from maybe the same person about to do that Q&A? But you had to make some tough choices.
Because it was like one after the other. The other thing was, they started right when they opened the doors and stuff like that. So people supposedly, I guess, had lined up like well before I was told. And so we had the pleb line, which I was in, and then you had the special line, and that special line, like it had a few people in it.
The special line, yeah. Well, we can talk about those special lines later. That's a big point of discussion. I mean, I get it. Yeah, the gold and platinum passes, I get it.
And it's been done before. No doubt
done before. I mean, it's the first time I've really seen it done.
Yeah, in our area, I would say yes. It's the first time.
But I mean, I get it. But boy, that was at points demoralizing. If you just had a regular ticket.
And they definitely were enforcing what they said, where they went down the line and said golden platinums. So they were definitely making sure they got there first, like they promised.
Oh yeah, well,
so they got their money's worth.
Well, yes, they did get their money's worth, and I think at points you really want to beat them up. I think, honestly speaking.
Why do you say that?
I know.
Oh no, because at a point they really put in. Some of them really put in your face.
People,
they got
one of those passes.
Yes.
Oh.
No, yeah, I got one of those passes. I want to see the line because then I'll get to the front of it.
So what happened?
And and one guy did that while we were waiting in a line, and I admit,
just let weebs be weebs. It's fine.
I mean, there was a moment I admitted that, but it passes. But that all said,
I want footage, or it didn't happen, Mike. I want footage of you laying the smack down, or it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
But what was it? It was.
But they can go back. They can go back and sit in their parents' basement later on. So.
But it was funny how it worked out. So we had to line up, and then it was just like a race. So Sakura's voice actress was the one first, and we didn't even get there. And then basically they said, we'll start a new line and move you guys over. And then we were doing Kana Ueda. And we actually were lucky to get through to her, but these people were like machines. Like they only had an hour to do these signings, and they're like, boom, 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 boom. And they had to check and make sure everything was official merchandise too. But at least you got to get a choice of your Sharpie, the color Sharpie they could sign with. And so then if you got, so we got Canada, the next one was for Shiro's voice actor. And he basically, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we they're going to just let us do it again. We'll skip to the next one. And so basically what they did is, I don't know, you said it was one of the head or probably higher ups or something like that, decided, in all fairness, they would do randomizer time for the last one for Saber's voice actress. And I basically said, well, I'll just see how it goes. And being non-blasé about it was good because people were very, I don't want to say they went after this fella, but
they were salty.
They were...
Well, some people
as the young people say nowadays.
Attention. Let's put it this way: they were trying to get his attention.
It certainly wasn't. It certainly like to those who didn't get chosen on each of those sweeps. Yeah, it left a bad taste, admittedly.
And so they decided to do a different thing for the next day. We'll just talk about
Sunday.
Lines so that it kind of continues the circle.
Yeah,
so
kind of circle.
Because I remember I was debating if I should go in on that Saturday to get the autographs, but then
you would have basically been waiting, and it's hard to say whether you would get the ones you want because you said you already had Mecha Uedas and stuff like that.
So I opted out on Saturday for the autographs because I was just out with my sister and her family. So I later learned about the shit show and thought, oh, okay, I dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, it was interesting. They improved things a little better because they were able to lay out signage, floor signage a little better.
Yeah, on the Sunday. But then I heard from Kevin, they had these signage, but remember, this is at the back of the hall, and I think the security was worried about fire zones and all this, and you had the, I guess, bath stalls and stuff like that. And so I think you guys waited them out because they were going to move you. I think you said, Kevin.
They were already... So this was on the Sunday.
So even though they had a plan...
So I went in to get Noriko Shitaya's autograph. So she's the person who voices Sakura. I already have Kano Ueda's autograph. She's Rin. So... Oh, wait. No. My mistake. I went for Ayako Kawasumi's.
Yeah, Saber.
For Saber. Mm-hmm. But I didn't go to get an autograph for Saber, though. I actually went to go get my copy of Samurai Champloo autograph because she's Fu.
Yeah, kind of like what I did. I got an art book from Ayori Yoshi.
Because
she plays Aoi in that.
I'm
not totally sure. I'm not totally sure how she felt about seeing that character again, but
yeah, right. Part of me suspects that she might not even remember.
Entirely
those
possible.
Old roles?
Entirely possible. Entirely possible.
So I got there at 1:45.
So I didn't know you were there on Sunday because we were. But this leads to another point. One of the latter points.
I got there. I think that autograph line was supposed to start at 2 or 3. I don't remember anymore. But I got there an hour and 15 minutes before, and it was already kind of long. And so they were warning us that there's probably not a good chance that you're gonna get an autograph. So so eventually they did technically cut off the line because of what you said, James, that because of fire code regulations. And so they were telling us to disperse, but then I actually kind of walked away for a bit, but then people were standing firm saying like, no, we're not moving and all that, and we're going to just wait it out. And then eventually, like, some people that worked for the con, I guess they talked it out, and then they decided that, fine, you can stay, but like, just, don't hope for anything, right? And then I came back, I rejoined the line because I knew the people who I was standing with, and they were nice enough to let me back in. And she was nice enough to stay a little bit past the time to sign more of us, because I think by the time I finally got that autographed, it was like 3:55.
And that was the thing. I think they were a little more interspersed for that on the Sunday. They couldn't really do that on the Saturday because they had all their Q&As and the other signings like back to back to back. And then they had their big panel at the end of the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't as possible.
Basically on the Saturday, right? We're talking Saturday.
Yeah, on the Saturday. So you couldn't do that overtime. You know what I mean?
The talk show, basically. The Fate Stay talk show. Which, boy, isn't really a Q&A. It's just...
Well, they actually they did well, like with that, where we got 2 of their castmates. That was, what was it? Archer and Gilgamesh. They had some words for the people that were there and for their fellow voice actresses, and that was good. They also, they actually did get quite a few questions from their Google Forms thing.
Yes, basically.
And,
and
there were some good questions in there. Yeah, and people, and there is very informative stuff. Like, I think one of the most informative things, it's not really spoilers, but one point is, and I forget who it says, and they just said the director was genius for this, is that the visual novel had a spot, and we'll just say Sakura in Wonderland, where in the visual novel, all it was just darkness and black, and then you just have words on a screen. And he took that and turned it into something. It was the same type of scene, but it's like, how do you do that when you already, like, no one wants to sit through a black screen for probably a few minutes. Like, that'll kill a movie, you know what I mean?
It'll feel like an episode of Evangelion in some ways.
But basically, they did this Sakura in Wonderland, and it's like, oh, everything's happy and stuff like that, and then it turns into something completely different. And it still held the same meaning. And that was an interesting thing because a lot of people probably hadn't played the visual novels, or if they had, you hadn't really thought about it. And it's like, oh, that's a good way to keep the spirit, but do it just a little differently, because there are differences between like games and anime and manga and stuff like that. You know what I mean? How the mediums are able to portray things.
Very impressive, I'd say.
Well, there's the open interpretations, which once again is a point of personal fascination for me.
And there were other things too. I know the other thing last for Fate was you went and saw the recording. And that was an interesting one because remember, they're a veteran cast. And that's what the sound director said.
Yes, this is a veteran cast. Let's talk about the recording because we'll talk about the sound director because what was the sound director's name again? Do you remember off the top of your head?
One sec. I'll quickly look. The sound director was Takeshi Takadera.
Takadera-san was the sound director. Yes.
And he also was there when me and Mike, they did some programs and stuff like that. And we saw, and so it was Mecha Ude was when he was there.
He's the sound director of Mecha Ude.
So he was doing that, and he was promoting this.
He wasn't directly involved in Heaven's Feel 2, but he was the sound director for Fate Stay Unlimited Blade Works.
Mm-hmm. So he has some stuff in the Fate universe.
Yeah, so he has he does have a fairly significant role in the Fate universe. So he hosted the recording panel with Sugiyama, Ueda, Kawasumi, and Shitaya, and he was the star of that. Really, he was the real star of that recording session. They just brought him up and they recorded scenes and stuff. Like they reenacted various scenes from the Fate Stay series. Basically, it was UBW basically. Mm-hmm. And then the director would let them record do the simulation of recording, and then the director would, the sound director, mm-hmm. and then Takadira-san would get into some very technical details, which I found really fascinating.
Because it's a different experience than the North American experience, like we know, but there's so much going on, especially since all of them are together and stuff like that.
In the same room, and there is a definite chemistry there.
And they've definitely, and it depends if they're a veteran cast or if this is the first time they're doing this series, because this series, they've had so much involvement in that it kind of becomes a part of them and stuff like that.
Well, it was.
And then you said the other thing is sometimes they have to emote differently because Sakura is different in different incarnations. For example, between the movies and the TV series.
Partly that, and and basically have to emote based on where relationships between characters stand at that point during that scene, right? So, like this is, he said, yes. Now since this is a veteran cast, they know what they're doing with their with these voices. They've done them for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. Probably closer to 2. And then, so this is at this stage, it's kind of easy. So the voice actors can remember what stage they are at their relationship, and in many respects, they've played this scene before or a version of this scene before, previously recorded, mm-hmm. and they already have that interplay because they've worked together for so long. But if it's a new cast, then the discussion becomes a little different. These are characters doing, like, Seiyu doing the role for the very first time. So then there starts to be suggestions as to, okay, what are these characters' relationships at this point? What parts of the personality what parts of said character's personality should be showing at this point? Should they be more forceful? Should they be more timid? Stuff like that. Critique. So once again, the critiques are based on both the contexts of the scene and the context of the story at that point, the timeline of the story. So that's what I found really fascinating about Takadira's comments.
It would have been definitely a fascinating one for me to go see, because this is the first time they've done one of these in Toronto and any of our cons. I know they've done them at other cons and stuff like that, and it definitely is an educational experience.
But typically, he would say, especially if this is early days in a character, the character is the early days, like say you doing a character for the first time, they probably would record this a couple times over so that they can refine it. Right? Since this is a more veteran-laden crew, you probably don't have nearly as many re-records, if at all.
Yeah, it takes.
So they end up. So the recording is performed. It's listened to according to Takadira. It would be refined based on where they feel the character should be depicted. If it's early days in all of this, and of course the director, as the sound director, suggests a few tweaks how they should. And the director. The director. It sounds like the director would have a good grasp of the work at that point, right? They probably would know the previously published works, so they have their sense as to where they think the character should be at that stage, and that'll be part of the debate. That'll be part of the tweak. That'll be part of the refinement. He said, but at that stage, but in terms of where these four voices were at this point, since we were talking, they had performed the role for a very long time. Fate Stay roles for a very long time. Really, these type of debates didn't happen around at this stage for them, because they already knew where they were with the character. They were well established with the character. They knew, so they already had long established the direction of their characters and their plot, and they were familiar with the plot lines already. But it was, as I said, it was really good. Some of the obvious stuff we've already touched on when we talked about Iwao Junko's talk last year at Anime North, when they talked about, everybody in a large studio sharing maybe a finite number of mics, maybe no more than a couple.
But then the other question was them coming back after so many years, because that was an even longer time than Fate. And Fate, they had a long break between them, but then they kept on coming back. What I mean? Which definitely probably helps
maybe
as
that
well.
comes back down to something maybe. Let's go. And since you brought that up, first of all, let me acknowledge this part. Once again, the talk about, positioning yourself properly around the mics, moving around the room properly, so that, because the mics can pick up a lot of things. They can pick up footsteps if you're not careful. So footwork and positioning yourself in the studio to huddle around the mics properly, it's a key thing. This is a thing we're talking. Now going back to playing a character after a long time. This comes back to, maybe this comes down to Kawasumi's Ayako Kawasumi's Q&A, which you and my friend probably didn't get a chance to see because you were in line waiting for autographs. But I decided to go watch. So that's a big takeaway for me. That was a big takeaway from my end, because she talked about about playing Saber again, and
about playing an iconic character.
She said but she was asked something about being typecast as Saber, and she said, to a degree, when she was younger, earlier in her career, she might have had a degree of regret about that type of stuff, about being just Saber. But she says, excuse me, I'm going to silence my watch now. I hate.
You said you weren't going to silence the watch.
But I don't want to be reminded how much the Raptors are sucking right now.
Well, is it okay? But is it not true that as a voice actor gets older, they don't get as many roles because
they're older?
They're not as marketable.
Yes.
And unless they're in an iconic franchise like Lupin or Doraemon or stuff like that.
Hold up.
And they demand, more for their services because they know what they're worth.
I don't know about the diva element to that. I
wouldn't even say the diva thing. It's just
You can get cheap labor because they keep on manufacturing them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then the other thing is, I forget who it was, but they talk about you can't just be a voice actor. You have to be an idol. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to sing. You have to do a single. You have to do your blog. You have to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, but she said, and at a point she said, not many voice actors can come across a role that they will be forever identified with. Mm-hmm. So as she's grown older, she said she appreciates having somebody like Saber.
Mm-hmm.
And
because they will milk that franchise for years to come.
And I think she has a secure job in that sense.
All I want to say is I still hope for Tsukihime.
Yeah,
one day.
So
what's Tsukihime, James?
Yeah, but
that doesn't maybe does that even exist?
Does Lunar Legend Tsukihime exist? I don't know.
But it's sort of like
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
never heard of it.
It's sort of like, how do we put this? Well, it's sort of like Iwao Junko as Tomoyo and Sakura Tange playing Sakura herself in Cardcaptor, right? I think that's the sense I got from Iwao-san's Q&As last year. Mm-hmm. She loved the role, and she was so appreciative to be able to come back. And we'll talk about this when we talk Fruit Basket a little later on.
Doesn't always happen.
There's no guarantees.
If you piss off the creator, they may not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later on. So, but that was a big takeaway. And just for reference, in the Q&A, she was asked, and these are some humorous, maybe one related question and one rather humorous question. The related question was, she was asked, outside of Fate, who's your favorite character to have played? You know what her response was?
What?
This won't surprise you. Fu.
Really?
She loved playing Fu.
Really?
And the thing is, these days, she also says, since she's come back to Saber, I mean, she loves playing Saber. She would say that she still has butterflies playing Saber, Kawasumi-san said.
But of course, is like in that one thing she talked about, the one thing that everyone thought during that whole movie is like, did you even speak during that movie? It's
yeah,
like,
she had like 4
lines. And she basically said
lines?
she goes, because remember she said she goes through the thing and like marks her things and stuff like that. And she's like, wait, is this all I have? It's like, you're just going to have me sit in the studio and listen to everyone else. Well,
So,
yes.
Yeah, so
yes,
you would want to get paid to do that, huh?
But she said she still has butter. She hasn't tired of playing Saber at this stage.
Well,
maybe that's the public PR thing to say too.
But it's also because they haven't made as many. Like, there's only so much material you can adapt at this point. Mm-hmm. They're running out of material to adapt.
The final thing is these movies, basically.
Unless they go back and remake the first arc, which I know we've had that conversation before. Probably won't happen.
Yeah, it's kind of like remaking the end of Game of Thrones. So, and then she was asked about, okay, Saber likes eating. Do you like eating? Somebody asked humorously. And she just said, yeah, she likes food. And she said, has she had a meal yet? And a follow-up was, has she eaten anything yet since getting in town? And she just joked, not too much, but I love French fries and I tried poutine. Oh. And she just simply said, that must be devil's food. So she did also acknowledge once again, and she did also acknowledge that Shitaya-san did sneak in to see the movie and get in early to see the movie. And because Shitaya-san, she wanted to see the reactions. And let's just say she was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, she enjoyed watching the audience reaction or observing the audience reactions through the movie.
I wonder what her reaction was to all those otaku salivating over Sakura's.
Well, no, that was Yu Asakawa. They said Yu Asakawa came up behind the fellow who does Shuro in the recording booth because they were talking about how he should do those certain types of scenes and basically said to him, you should have done more. It's like, you should have elevated the performance. And he's like, man.
Really?
Just shaking his head.
Well, okay. But one other point is the guests of honor in general seemed pretty impressed with the cosplay. Mm-hmm. They were impressed with the level of cosplay for this part of North America, which I guess is always that's always been a thing for this area.
There was out there. They always are out there, but of course, in the bigger cons, we'll see the next level next weekend, of course.
Mm-hmm. So,
and the other thing, I guess to point off is there were programs, like they definitely had some video things that were intriguing, like Mecha Ude and Made in the Abyss finally coming to a part of Canada, to say the least. And then we probably won't have time for that, but let's bring Kevin in here. And remember, there was a bit of a concert.
Yeah, what about the concert? Because we watched Made in the Abyss, liked it. We watched
that was happening while the concert.
Yes, Mecha Ude. Let's say this much: we should put a link. The episode that they showed at the convention is now on YouTube,
and it's going to only be up till the beginning of June. So you have a limited amount of time to watch.
And I will say,
and it's a dub and a sub, and it was a Kickstarter anime, and I have to say I was impressed with what they did. They had just sent out the rewards, I guess, the month before and stuff like that. It was interesting. You go through those comments and that, and it was a long run. I think it's like 2 or 3 years. It takes time just to get that 25 minutes. But I think as the sound director, same one that was doing the panel, he put out the thing that this isn't episode 1. This is like episode 4. This is their promo vehicle to hopefully sell it to a committee or to get more of it made. And I could definitely see that effort in there, because it definitely says, oh, I want to see more of this. Like with the action and the characters and the humor.
Yeah, there is, I thought for knowing that story, I found it fascinating. And I certainly wasn't turned off by watching it. I enjoyed it.
And they got an all-star cast too.
They do have a good cast. So I'll be curious to see how that goes, and maybe it's a sign of the times too, crowdfunding for shows. Well, just like everything, a lot of other things.
Not as much. Like some of them have done, like Little Witch Academia did, but not as Under the Dog did it, but they haven't gotten as much traction on that too. Under the Dog and this one, Mecha Ude, are two that we're basically doing it. We'll see how they do, but they haven't got as much traction, even though they were successful, over hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And the other one that got over $100,000, I watched the 2 episodes yesterday, but that one was a different one, was Gracia Phantom Trigger, the anime. And so that one was interesting, where they did it themselves, the guys that did Gracia before, and they did their own small studio, the director, and they were doing that. So it was self-funded, but then they did these campaigns for the physical stuff. So the only way to get the Blu-rays was to do the crowdfunding. So they did Kickstarter for international, and then they did a campfire. And now at the moment, we have these episodes on Steam. It was nice to see them. But we don't have anything on the physical because they still have to do an English dub, which I think was a mistake, because Sentai did not do a dub for the other Gracia series and stuff like that. So I think that was a mistake. So it'll be interesting to see if they lose money or how they do it, because you have the people on Kickstarter like, why isn't my stuff? Where is it going? And
they're how Kickstarter goes.
And they're talking about, because they've done other things and they've been way behind, but that's the normal thing, that they go after the creators. But I'll see how it falls. We've got those 2 episodes up. I've enjoyed what I saw of Phantom Trigger. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see. Hopefully they'll be able to get the stuff done. The other interesting tidbit from that for Phantom Trigger is there's more things, because there are more than 2 visual novels. So the third one, it's 1 episode for 1 visual novel episode, the visual novel. Mm-hmm. So the third episode, basically they said, oh, we're going to do another not Kickstarter campaign. They said crowdfunding campaign. So whether they do it on Campfire like they did for the Japanese, or Kickstarter and the thing, they said we're going to use it to make the quality better. I'm intrigued to see how that goes over, considering they haven't delivered, you know what I mean, the physical stuff for the Kickstarter backers and stuff like that. I forgot what they were doing on Campfire. I think it was similar deal.
And that'll be another discussion for in the future.
But that's the thing with the Kickstarter things and the crowdfunding. It's an interesting time, as they said.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're beholden, right? Mm-hmm. Because people feel they've given you their money. Well, now they're a part of the
I saw
equation, right?
I saw that discussion in the 3 years waiting for Kimagure Orange Road, the manga. Okay, let's...
Yep, and now they have it right for sale.
Yeah, okay, so there is one element that I was curious about, because we didn't get a chance... James, myself, didn't get a chance to see the concert. You did.
But we did get a chance to see glow sticks.
Oh, we saw the glow stick, the latest in glow stick technology. That was fun. We had a nice conversation with
over
$100 guy selling
with
those
things. Yeah,
and it was
you should have seen the free tiers and like how expensive they get.
Yes, but the thing is, they're reusable, and I mean, this was fun.
You can set the light strobing and how the patterns are done.
These sticks can now sync up with the songs and light up accordingly.
Yep.
And that was really an interesting conversation. I have to get the link. I know we got his business card, so remind me. I got to find that again. We'll try and put up a link. The guy who was selling, because obviously they're just a reseller here that based in Vancouver.
They're I guess North American, Canadian distributor, whatever.
They got the North American. I guess they get the North American distribution rights. Really fascinating conversation James and I had with them. But tell me about the concert, just a bit, just because I know we've run over an hour, 10 minutes, but
So I ended up going to IFF that night just for the concert.
On the Saturday.
Yes. So by the time I arrived, I got to the tail end of the set for those two Dojin music artists. I think one was Tam, and then the other one was and Ryusei. There you go. So they're popular in the Dojin circles. So they've done music for. I think they did do music for Toho back in the day. Mm-hmm. So they played a pretty good set from what I've heard.
And they were actually in the dealer's room as well.
Yes, they also played a small set.
There was a small set. We heard them in the lines. It kind of gave us something to listen to while we were.
We got to talk about those lineups just before we touch on that.
I didn't get to hear too much of them, but I liked what I heard. Next was DJ Kazu, who is he's an Anisong DJ. Now, I don't know. I thought it was kind of underwhelming because I feel like other than his transitions, there was no difference between what I can listen to at home. And I don't know. I assume he
sounded so underwhelmed. You sound underwhelmed.
Well, remember, he had to pay extra. You had to pay extra to get to the concert. Yeah.
Well, let's be real. I paid mostly for Megumi Nakajima anyway. Because two of my other friends, they also only went to the concert because they wanted to see Megumi Nakajima as well.
And how is that? How is the important part that you paid all the money for?
Well, before I get there, I'll talk about who. Oh yeah, it was Konomi Suzuki that performed before Megumi Nakajima. So both of them did small sets. So I would say I'd wager about 6 to 8 songs on average between the both of them. So I wasn't very familiar with Konomi Suzuki stuff because I don't watch a lot of new anime anymore. But her most popular song would probably be the No Game No Life opening theme song. So they were it's pretty generic stuff, I won't lie. Like it's very it's so anime theme song like, and that's like a lot of idols are like that now. So, it was fun. She had no encore as well. So she did her 6 to 8 songs and then that was it. Megumi Nakajima was last. I actually didn't know that she's done that many anime songs for other non-Macross anime. So she did around 6 to 8 songs too. So she sung for a few other things. So she sung all of those. She sung her 2 most popular, or actually she sung 1 or 2 of her Macross songs. No Carrot song though. I wanted the Carrot song and it didn't fucking happen.
No encore, huh? No encore Carrot.
Actually, there was an encore. The encore, this was a real encore. Because, so she ended up coming out. She admitted that she had no music for whatever she was going to do next. So we were screaming for her to sing Aimo, which is it's that chant song that happens throughout Macross Frontier. So she sung that with no music.
And the crowd went wild.
Yeah, we were happy.
Okay.
We were quite happy. No, we were really happy because we were like, yeah, sing IMO, sing IMO, sing IMO.
Oh wow, you've blown the microphones. No.
And so she did, and yeah, it was great. Like that was a really nice bonus because we were like, oh, I guess she's not singing IMO then, and then she comes on, and we're like, oh, maybe she'll sing it after all, and so she did. And that was worth half of my admission alone.
Well, worth it overall?
Yeah, I guess so.
Marginally, it sounds like.
I guess. No, I got IMO, so it was fine.
Yeah.
If only you had bought a high class glow stick, then you just would have been into the full experience.
Yeah, fuck that. My friend bought a glow stick, and
which one? Which tier?
No, he
normal glow stick.
He's in a normal tier, but he bought one of the glow sticks actually, and then he didn't use it for more than half of the concert. And I said, dude, you paid like $40-$50 for this thing.
You didn't even go for the $100 one. Like,
wait,
I don't know how much it was, but
it's a low mid tier.
And so I was like, okay, give it to me then. I'll use it if you're not going to use it.
And the battery ran out.
Well, no, he assaulted many people and then was dragged down.
Yeah,
so I was trying to.
You could club a platinum member.
So I was. Wow. I was trying to like figure out how it worked, and he's like, "Give me it," and then so he finally like used it because of that. Because I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out like, okay, so how does this thing work now?
Well, you're in a dark room, right? So how are you supposed to?
No, I was just incompetent. I won't lie.
So, well, it sounded like but it's not like I would have been curious too. I had fully admit it's just so many things happening at the same time, and this, to me, like this is the big takeaway I had with the convention. Key things I think people want to do happened all at the same time. And you had some tough choices to make. Miss out on a Q&A. Miss out on an autograph line. Probably miss out on even exploring the dealer's room and the dealers and artist alley area. Because
they were kind of all together.
They were all lumped
blob.
together,
yeah.
And I don't think they saw too much in the way of traffic. I would have one person who did the Nomi Noichi with me 2 years ago, the table next to me. She was there. I didn't know until after the fact she was there. Would have wanted to go say hi. It'd been a while. So, and this is my takeaway. This is my own one of the big takeaways I have from this convention. I'm glad they did it. I enjoyed it overall, but that doesn't mean there weren't issues.
Well, I think the takeaway was you want to get certain things, you pay them the money, show them the money.
And you can explore afterwards, and then if you get that gold and platinum, and then double dip in line.
Well, then it's like normal people will just never get anywhere, and then they will be
lend me that glow baton next time.
It's not. Remember, it's not mine.
So that's my takeaway. That's part of the discussion, and I know because Squirrely was there, and I know they complained a bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know that it was part of the course. They said they knew what they were getting into.
Yeah, to be fair to them, right? And but I'm glad they did it. It's now another thing that'll be added to the landscape. I presume here.
Wow, we'll see how it goes. Like I'd say, what they promote, they were definitely very successful at. It's just a matter, are they going to do it at the same time of the year? Are they going to change it up? It's going to be interesting to see because they're starting to expand because their base is really Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And then it feels like they've went really quick because then they had this Osaka show and now they have this Toronto show. You know what I mean? And that takes money to get all that together. And of
course there's Vancouver. And of course there's Vancouver. And that happens in
the summer. Yeah.
So that'll happen in early August. So there's so that's the basic takeaway from the whole show. Glad they did it. Hope it comes back. Hope they continues to come back. Hope they get a good time frame for it. Will it be in April? Will it be in June? I think because
there were other odd takeaways.
They're rumbling.
I think, I was going to say.
Give me one.
Well, the panels were okay. It was interesting, but the other thing was the video rooms. How they did is like most of them at a lot of the cons. I think they're moving away from the physical media as well. Like
Crunchyroll had a presence.
It was Crunchyroll, but it looked like they were streaming. They were using a lot of the internet. And even in the panel rooms. At the back, when they were doing Pro ZD or whatever,
well, I'm glad you brought
and the
this
other
up.
things, they had the guys at the back on the laptops, and they were beaming stuff to the front and doing stuff like that, which you don't see as often at certain cons. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, I mean,
even though they have the internet capabilities and stuff like that, but it takes a lot of coordination.
The panels and the discussions kind of lacked, but maybe that wasn't the point for IFF at this stage anyway. But actually, I'm glad you brought up.
But there was a lot of integration in all of them, even though there wasn't as many.
Yeah,
there's only 2 panel rooms, 2 video rooms, and then that one big room, and then the other main room at the basement where they held the concert.
But okay, now that you brought up Crunchyroll, this had me thinking. There wasn't really an internet connection in there. Was it a LAN? Did they bring a big hard drive full of stuff?
It looked like they were something. I feel like it was. I'm not sure it was a hard
drive
because it looked like they were going through. So I'm not sure if it was an offline thing or something.
I'm
like
thinking everything in that room was offline in some sort of an
offline mode. But they don't have an offline mode, to my knowledge.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Crunchyroll themselves still don't have offline viewing. So
which is an odd.
I think this was like an internal program for the company, like just something they have. For just strictly, they would use strictly for things like this,
which seems odd because other companies are using and promoting it to their paying customers and stuff.
Like having
you think about,
modes? I mean, that's still a big request. That's still a big request, obviously, for regular Crunchyroll viewers. I mean, I'd probably get a chance to watch a little more if I had that. Mind you, I haven't been watching as much.
I probably got a Prime account for that, you know.
Yeah. So. But ultimately, and I guess to end off our talk on IFF after almost an hour and a half, or an hour, ultimately the conversation comes back to Anime North, and I know what you said, Kevin, earlier about
anime conventions.
Well, it's more of a case of where does Anime North sit in all of it with all that's happened?
Where does it sit?
The same place it's always sat.
It's just gonna sit,
and they don't have to really do anything because it's as they promote themselves, the biggest fan run convention in Canada, or fan. I don't know,
and that's the thing. They're just gonna sit there and do.
It's basically for fans, run by fans. That's what basically they'll.
And it's just gonna stay the same.
Unless people stopped coming, which I don't think is gonna happen.
But there is always that sense that Anime North has spun its wheels to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they're still spinning.
It's because we see TCAF and we see the manga guests, and even with the connections, and then we see this one, stuff like that. So it's like, throw us a bone every few years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And
sorry, you finish, Mike.
Well, I mean, they announced their a couple Japanese guests,
and that was the thing too. Like they announced them so late, and then you see other cons they announced them a few months before. Like it feels early, like they're preparing. Just like IFF, they announced them before, so everyone knew to get there. You know what I mean?
Yuao Junko was announced just roughly a month out from Anime North last year.
It feels like there's no, because you want a promo and stuff. Like definitely they promoted the fake guests. People came for the fake guests. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ritsuko, the voice actress behind Ritsuko, and her name escapes me right now.
Yuriko Yamaguchi.
Thank you. She was announced in the last couple weeks as the guest for Anime North. So I think that we know where one of the big autographs chases will happen. You okay, Mo?
A little tired. Sorry.
Yes, long day. Well, I mean, you had to haul this stuff from H Mart. So,
hey, it's tough drinking the ramune.
Oh yeah,
you gotta get all that liquid out and have the.
Oh, she's Nico Robin from One Piece.
Yeah, no, it's Robin and Ritsuko. What was it?
Ritsuko.
Ritsuko and Robin are the big ones.
So here we go.
And so she's big time.
We'll talk about that. Let's talk. When we preview Anime North in a bit. But yeah, that's there. But there's always that. Okay, what does this mean for Anime North, or are they in trouble? But I always think, no, they're not.
They have the core, and they'll always have the core, and it's a different type of vibe. It's, as some people would say, it's an East Coast con where it's like you're getting together with your friends, you're hanging out, you have all these different panels and different discussions, and you can engage with different people. It's not as much about the guests and commercialized, you know what I mean?
It's about the gathering.
Exactly.
And they always had that from the beginning, because remember,
that's
the
all
stories about how like Bandai and a few of the others tried to come and go into the dealer's room and have the big dealer's room like they have at other cons in Anime North. They don't want that. And they said, you can come to our dealer's room, you can do whatever, but it's like all in moderation. You know what I mean?
It's just that, is that where it should stay? That's, I guess, I
don't think they have to worry.
I don't. I agree
because of where they are. Like for example, they moved, for example, to a place, for example, like to the convention center or something like that, then you would have to do like some serious thinking because of costs and all that stuff. And that's why they said they've always stayed at the Congress Center in that area. And
but
stuff
that's
like
part
that.
of another discussion we've had in the past about what Anime North means to that actual area in Etobicoke in Toronto. Mm-hmm. It's Anime,
the biggest draw for those restaurants. It's like the Super Bowl for them because they get all that
weekend.
Money.
It's the Black Weekend for the restaurants and hotels in that area. Like this will be the determining factor for their profitability in the year.
I remember every year Harvey's had that with the free burger day.
I have the coupons.
It always comes back to free burger day.
I do have the coupons, but I'm not sure if they're going to accept the coupons.
I heard
they don't. They don't.
They didn't last year. I heard rumors they did. They didn't during the week.
I know. In past years, they didn't take the coupons
there
that
was no
weekend
such sign.
because why would they?
Yeah,
I wouldn't. If I'm the owner, I wouldn't fucking take coupons because I'm gonna get money anyway.
Well, I'm just saying. My
paper.
take is, Anime North. The reason Free Burger Day disappeared, but it's like the word we and this I guess is our take a shot word for the episode. Icon. So icon, but that's the word. We used that word in our initial discussion about this. Anime North is now an icon of the convention circuit, for better and once again for better or worse.
But I don't think they care that they're icons. They just want to. Okay, it was Utarpa that started AN, right?
It certainly had a.
Like that whole old guard that runs AN they're all Utarpa, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So these are people in their like 40s and 50s and 60s.
Hey, that's my range. So
do they care about watching? Do they still watch anime? Who knows? Do they watch new stuff?
Short
Who knows?
answer is we're talking a large group, and chances are there's something in there.
So
are they going to be at Simcoe Place buying a falafel? I don't know.
So do they necessarily care that do they necessarily care about getting big guests and being like a huge con? No, I don't get the impression that they do, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I think people who complain why Anime North doesn't get the kinds of guests that IFF gets, I think they need to realize there's some reasons behind that. Like, it's all about motivation in the end. And what was it? So I don't know if IFF is for profit or not.
It is.
It is for profit. And it's more cultural, I think.
Because I hear conflicting things about whether or not it's non-profit or for-profit. I always assumed it was for-profit.
And I've been given no indication that it isn't that way. So.
It's the way you see everything, and if you go to the website, it's definitely a for-profit enterprise.
So, because on their first year, and when they started Anime Revolution, like 3 or 4 years ago, they already were getting big guests.
But I think IFF isn't associated with Anime Revolution.
I think it is.
It is.
It's all the same.
I thought there was like Anime Revolution, and then they started in. Was that the one that started in Burnaby, BC, or is that another one?
You're thinking Evolution. You're thinking Evolution.
Why is it?
Which is
long. Names are so similar.
Evolution was the one that was in SFU. for years.
And that's gone.
Okay.
So
So
that's
that's
gone now?
But gone.
all I have to say is that messes with my bloody mind because
But
the names are so
Revo-
similar. That's
So-
why
But Revo is the same people.
So if I'm to believe
Okay.
what I've heard,
and it's at the convention.
Revolution was started by this one guy that has fuck tons of money who wanted to have events like this going on. So there's also the fact that there's money going into this event. The whoever's organizing this is willing to put down the money and build the connections and bring the kinds of guests that fans want because it brings in money. That's what it ultimately boils down to in the end. I don't think the top brass at AN necessarily cares. They don't care because they're a nonprofit. No one makes money at AN. No one gets paid at AN, to my knowledge.
Nope, all goes to charity.
It's
Yeah.
all-
So
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
So
because
where's-
nonprofit, it has
so
to do
where's
a
the
certain-
incentive in that? There is none.
They're happy where they're at.
Yeah.
And they get the crowds. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we're hitting to a point where we shouldn't expect AN to bring these kinds of guests anymore because now we can rely on
So you're
Mr.
saying we
Moneybags
should,
and the people that behind Anime Revo
And IFF.
to
So you should
facilitate
put their
this.
foot to the fire, so to speak.
Well,
So-
yeah, and I don't think so. So I don't think they'll. So, but you don't think. Bottom line is, you don't think Anime North will feel any heat from this,
I don't.
No one
and
will.
I don't
yeah,
think
but-
so in that sense. I think.
But it's still food for thought.
It
you
is.
have to think about
You
it.
wonder. You do wonder if something will. How the dynamic will be between these two.
Furthermore, you need staff who are willing to do, like, you have to build the connections no matter what. You need to find staff who are willing to put in hours of their time and not get paid to bring in, to bring in guests that they want. Because what, our two Japanese voice actors, they're from the same two agencies that we've been pulling guests
We're
for
talking
years.
AN, right? We're
Yeah.
talking back to AN.
So whoever arranges that clearly has that relationship with that agency. That's why we're pulling in all these Idolmaster and like Vocaloid voice actors. So you need to find staff that are willing to that are care enough and are willing to just put in their time to do it for free, which is not realistic.
Well, it's a lot of work.
Definitely.
Yeah,
For what? For no recognition and no pay.
certainly not the pay. And it is. I mean, we've talked about Anime North being like centralized in some way, decentralized in another. Right? It can be admittedly at times frustrating because we've tried to have people on to come on the show to
And
talk
peop-
about
and people
to hype
even-
up the show, to hype up the convention, and
I've spoken to friends who have been formerly staff at AN running different departments and are jaded now because they feel like their voices aren't being heard when it comes, whether it's guests or whether it's running certain events the way that they should be run, so on and so forth.
this is the longer discussion, and we've gone a good hour and a half on this. But I think it's a debate that we will continue, and probably during Anime North, certainly after it. But let's close that for now, because it is, once again, it is food for thought. And, you know, I think it's just, well, it's nice to have the selection. And I hope IFF sticks around, because that for a better or worse, once again, another
And there's still other
another
selection
shot.
because we have TCAF as well.
Yeah,
So.
but I think it's nice. It's nice that I like going. The other key name, I guess we should bring up is FanExpo, and there's very much a vacuum. Like I think IFF certainly has filled the vacuum that was left when FanExpo had all but abandoned their anime programming.
Yep.
They do have it, but it's a shell.
It's a shell.
It's not even a shell.
What
It's just
no,
a
really,
dead.
really, what programming?
But I think
They don't
that's-
do the game shows. They don't do anymore.
I think they actually brought it back last year, but it's from some weird outfit in Florida, and they go to different cons, and it's very bizarre.
So
But
you're not asking Evan to do it anymore?
I guess so, yeah.
Really?
And Evan was the guy who succeeded all of us from doing all those game
because
shows.
we kept on passing the baton.
Because it got to the point that the game shows were the only reason why I was going to FanExpo.
We got some pretty darn good crowds, I thought. Like for what it was and for the crowds that started coming, I'm surprised we had many loyal people coming.
That's how I got to know you guys.
Huh?
That's how I got to know you guys.
Well, it's because we were the original producers of the game shows at the anime portions.
Yep.
So I was the first host of Name That Tune at CN Anime.
I miss slaying Name That Tune. Good times.
I miss playing Ben Stein in those type of games, which I did one night in Journeyama show. Okay, so let's take a break. We'll discuss what we want to talk about next. Do we want to talk TCAF, or do you want to save that discussion for another time?
Because we do a quick one right now.
Let's take the break first. I don't think it'll take that long.
And then give us, James, Kevin, I'm going to put you guys on the spot over TCAF. I'll figure out something to put you on the spot over too, Mohammed, okay?
Okay. Back
in a second, it's the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network. And the podcast now continues on this Friday evening. Was it May 17th, 2019? Raptors are still sucking tonight, although they've gotten a little closer. It's under 20.
We didn't win the Zion lottery. We failed from the beginning.
Yes, we. Well, so apparently since the fourth quarter of Game 1. Nicholas Austin, Shamarki, Ing around the table. I'd say
I thought it was Nicholas.
Yeah, shut up. In front of a live audience. Well, there's nobody. Once again, we're not in front of a live audience. Online via the Six Talk Podcast Network, official podcast Anime North. But we'll see for how long. We'll see for how much longer. Okay, so second segment. We did go overtime on this IFF. Lots on the mind. Over the last 2 months, we haven't done an episode. But,
I guess it's because, as we said, it's been convention season, so a lot to look at, right?
We're in a very interesting
busy
period.
season, right?
We're in a very interesting period for Toronto anime fandom. Right? We are in a very... although I found out...
And the IFF was kind of just, it happened. We thought, we'll go and see what happens,
On
right?
that note, somebody confirmed this for me. The maid cafe for Uncle Tetsu's is long gone. I heard it's just a regular cafe now, or just a walk-in.
Oh, really?
I heard, but I heard
don't walk by there, so I don't know.
Okay, because
I haven't been there in a while, but I'm assuming it's like all their others, where it's just a normal location. Because it makes sense, because they've built their brand. People go there for the cheesecake.
and
I usually stop at Sujiri, and I don't go past that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've heard, because I think some people just squat there, and like really just would go for the maids, just buy something light, and stay for probably longer than they should. So that ended that, but there's something Tetsu like going on. Okay, so we've used a lot of time on IFF. We as I said, we've talked quite a bit.
We just used a lot of time.
Period. Well, okay, so TCAF happened. I didn't go to it, but James, Kevin, you did. Give me a sense of it. And let's keep this, and I know this will be a monumental task. Let's keep this to 10-15 minutes.
So I didn't get my autograph for Junji Ito.
You weren't man enough. You didn't.
That's it.
Well,
that's all I gotta say.
Give me your
all we can say is it's a free event. People have been coming into it for the last few years since it's been yearly in the young bluer corridor, and they've definitely grown. And as Kevin said, he was lucky enough to go in with me, even though I got through the Eventbrite to go to the live drawing with Junji Ito at the historic Masonic Temple. And I think they said over 200 people, and that was their biggest panel and event ever for them.
You're talking about the live drawing on Saturday,
the live
right?
drawing, yes.
I almost didn't make it in.
And the guy that was there, that was looking at our line that had the tickets, we were joking, and then I said... He's like, I've never seen a line this big, because we're going down Davenport basically in front of like a couple of the apartment buildings, and people were pissed because we're like blocking their apartment entrances. They're like, what the fuck? And some of the explanations to these people just made me want to laugh. It's like, we're here to see this guy that came from Japan that likes to draw and blah, blah, blah.
I did a couple of those, actually. I had people who were in their cars asking me, like, what are you guys lining up for? And I had to tell them, yeah, I was a Japanese comic artist coming in.
Should have told them the truth. Free weed. See what happens.
That would have been fun, actually.
Well, worthwhile again, right? I mean, this is...
Well, it was a tale of the lines again, because Kevin basically was there for Saturday. We tried our best, but we failed at getting Jinji Ito. Now, I was even more hardcore than Kevin, because I decided I would go there from a GO station, and I went at 6:20, and I had to take a bus because they don't do trains. And I figured, okay, that's okay. I'll be at the very end, but I might just squeeze in. Not even close. Then on the the Sunday, I said, I'll be even crazier, and I'll go on the very, very first thing out of the GO station, which again was a bus at 5:20 in the morning. No sun is up yet again, but I did not even make it close again. But
were you 200 or 300?
I was remember only 100 signatures, and they were very firm on the 100. So we were probably 110, 120.
Oh, the gate comes right in front of your chest.
But we did for the Saturday.
99, 100.
I think they felt bad though. So on the Sunday, they felt bad that they had done some signatures with Ito on the Friday, obviously.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I'm selling this book, because this one's non-autographed. The other one I have at home, they did these pre-autographs. So I do have an autograph, one of Frankenstein, and basically what was picture from the manga, his signature, which he does do the spiral thing, and then a date.
Wait, so James, you went to the Friday you went to the Friday event.
No, not Friday. I'm saying Sunday.
So you went to the Sunday. There was a Sunday event.
No, that was the signing. That was the signing. Remember?
So, just clarify this for me. So, how did you get a pre-autographed?
Because book? I was still in the fucking line, and they knew, and they told people. They said, you guys aren't going to be able to go to the meet and greet to the get the autograph, right?
Okay.
And so people were like steaming because they still had hope. They thought, okay, maybe he'll just do a few more. Mm-hmm. But they weren't gonna let that fly. But they said, well, we know we can't do that, but we have these pre-autographed books. So if you want, you can come in and buy these pre-autographed books. So we got to be in the same room as him at the Masonic Temple, but that's about it.
So they had these books the whole time and they were selling them the whole time?
No. I think this was the first time they were selling them, because I know at previous TCAFs for different creators, they've gotten them to sign their books or certain things, and then they sell them at Panel and Page, which is the official TCAF store at the library.
See, if I knew that was there, I would have bought one.
I'm not sure if they're gonna. Well, they only did it then because they knew they had steaming people that knew they weren't going to get an autograph. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure how many more of these they would have. They must have a few more, but probably not as many, because they had to sell a lot to appease people on the Sunday. You know what I mean? That couldn't get in.
How much were they charging?
Just cover price.
That's fair.
So it was just Canadian cover price, no tax.
Because if I knew that was there on the Sunday, I would have bought the book and I would have just been satisfied watching the live drawing.
Yep. And they also had the Friday event, which hopefully they said it was taped. It'll probably go on YouTube. It had some interesting stuff in it. They talked about Silent Hills and stuff like that. And
I had another friend that went to the Friday event, and she was like not live Instagramming, but through Instagram stories, she would post the little snippets of what he said that was pretty interesting.
And so there was a Twitter transcript from someone else too. So there was definitely some interesting stuff. I didn't see if there was anything like that.
Maybe it was Deb Oki that did that.
Yeah, Deb Oki might have done that. I'm not sure. They probably did something for the live drawing too. The live drawing, they did take questions, but how they did, because it's 200 people and it's craziness, they did it through Twitter, of course. So we tweeted at Chris Butcher, and Chris Butcher tried his best, but he almost scared the heck out of the audience because his mic just went flailing. Like the sound just boom. So they had to give him a new mic.
Yeah, because of that autograph line, I missed some decent panels, actually.
Once again, this sounds like a familiar story.
But they had another creator, a Yuri creator, and it was her first time in North America as well. And she was from published in Seven Seas Kasein. And that one would have been an interesting one to go to because they had Erica Freeman, who's well known in North America for her another one.
Yeah,
for her history of Yuri in North America. And
so she did a panel called 100 Years of Yuri.
Mm-hmm. And she's been doing that for the past year and stuff.
And
like that,
so, because it's actually the 100, it's been around for 100 years now. And I missed that panel because we were waiting in vain to see if we were going to get lucky for the autograph on Saturday.
Well, it was weird. We went down because some people got like that one board with the thing, and then me and you tried to go. Well, you didn't, but I went.
I didn't.
And then they said, the last guy behind us was able to get one, and then they're like, "Fuck no, you're not getting one." I was like, "Oh well, that's the way it goes." But it was what it was. TCAF is definitely growing very fast, and the thing that still amazes is that it's totally free. Everything is free. It's all donation based. The Toronto Library gives space and time. A lot of the consulates, Japan Foundation, so like French consulate, Italian consulate, Viz, because so they get a lot of, and it's interesting that they've been able to keep it up because at some point people are like, when are they going to start charging a fee or something like that? But they haven't went that route.
Not yet.
And it's interesting that they get a lot of global presence. So a lot of people came from around North America and the world because they get these special guests like Ito and so on and so forth.
Well, Peter clearly finds ways to subsidize the event.
I think it's Chris's baby. Remember?
It's the beguiling group. That's why I say Peter, because it's the whole beguiling crew in the end.
Peter is basically the backer, but Chris is the genesis behind because they were going up. I forget from which convention, and he's like, "We can do this," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty much Chris and Miles' baby at this point.
And then they've got the cachet and stuff like that because I've talked to different people and they said it's even more impressive than an event of similar size and similar ideology would be the Small Press Expo, I believe they call it. And I think that's near Washington, D.C.
And that's basically the comparable.
Yeah, because basically it's comics as art, and it's something you don't know. It's not comics as art. It's a very indie type thing. And the other panel we didn't get to see that was at the Japan Foundation. That was interesting. It was these ladies that they brought from, I guess they were from either Akiba or wherever, but it was indie Japanese manga.
Yes.
They were talking about, and that would have been interesting because it's not the manga we're used to. And I've read some manga and stuff
it's an artsy thing.
It's similar to the one I showed you.
So those two women were Eriko Obayashi and Ayumi Nakayama. So one of them owns a bookstore, and another one is from a small publication.
And I did take a look at their tail. There's some interesting stuff on that. I didn't notice because they had the crowd in front of them, but it was an interesting thing of stuff at their table.
So I actually ditched the Ito drawing session partway to actually pop into their panel. And pretty interesting actually.
And it was Deb Aoki was doing the moderation for that one, so that must have been an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for her because I noticed her, because the Ito drawing session started like 40 minutes late. And so
there wasn't as many there, I'm guessing.
So she had to leave. I noticed that she was leaving because clearly she had to go moderate a panel. So I was like, oh man, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Felt bad for her. But because I imagine she would have wanted to see that, but
yeah, there was definitely like a lot packed in for all the different stuff, and
yeah,
they have different events. Like they've taken Cumberland. I wonder how long they'll do the zine Cumberland Terrace or Zine Terrace type thing, because I saw on the thing that they're developing that. Of course they would, because that's like, you think Yorkdale and all that, it's all upscale, and then you have this just not so upscale thing in behind there.
That bar.
No, the Cumberland Terrace. Remember, it's in behind there, and they're using that for the zine part of the TCAF.
Okay,
it's like that.
Now I know what you're talking. I thought you were talking about the tavern. That's
no. The tavern, but it's right across from the tavern. You can look into it and stuff like that, because I don't know how they survive, but people are in there. Well, shop owners. And the other thing I got. Remember, you were with me when I went to Holo Press. So they had sold out a volume 1. That's why they didn't have it when I went and checked on their website. So I actually finished it off because up to 4 was how much that they did of Shintaro Kago's Day of the Flying Head. And so Hollow Press is interesting because they make them in Italy, but they edit and do them from there, and then Kago just can do whatever he wants. And the other thing is they have print runs. So I think this one is volume 2, had 800 copies. I think volume 4 had the lowest. It was like 600 copies. So it's kind of crazy how low the print runs are. Like it's very indie and stuff like that for an artist and for them. And a collaboration, an international collaboration, because they did 2 other books. So it's those type of things are interesting to find at this type of event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to kind of go back, this is not real. This is more of an artsy thing, not a fan thing. I know I read that.
Now they talk about it. Yeah, they talk about
really
that
discouraged.
Well, it's not discouraged. It's
just
kind of like they say that you can put away the costume, but if it's like your friends that were with us while we were weighing the one thing, it was kind of costume-esque. It's costume-esque.
They're just dressed up in Gothic Lolita.
No, I you know what I mean. I'm just saying costume-esque. I'm not saying cosplay.
Yeah.
I'm saying costume-esque or different, but it fits into the mold. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's just not that kind of crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It just sounds like a very different vibe. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to see it.
Well, they have it every year, so yes, I don't think you're going to miss. It just depends on what they get, because they've definitely been getting the guests and stuff like that. And since Chris has a part of Viz now, it's like they've been getting these Viz guests, and they've definitely upped their game. I'm not sure who they're going to get, because they've been doing the same thing we talked about before with IFF, using it as a promo vehicle. So last year it was Asano.
Inyo Asano, yes.
Yep, because of Dedede. And this year it was Kago, because he had a graphic novel come out. I think it was Splinter, Shiver. No, not Shiver.
Yeah,
anyway,
Ito, yeah, it was
Smash.
It was Smash. Yeah, Ito
so
released.
Smash came out last
Smashed,
month.
yes.
So that's what they were using as the promo vehicle, on top of the fact that he has so many different books out. But I think the thing last thought is that I'm amazed it got to where it was that I'm waiting to get a signature in Failure, because his manga in the late 90s, early aughts was so hard to bloody sell. Like Comics One tried to do it, then Dark Horse tried to do it. None of them could get done. Viz tried to, but yeah, Viz got Gyro and Spiral.
Yeah, they tried
and it
Gil, yes.
And it didn't do as well for them either.
But then they eventually re-released it.
Well, that was the key thing, is that they went for this more upscale, the hardcover and stuff like that at the beginning of this decade, and it was more interspersed, and like maybe one a year if you were lucky.
Yeah, because they
put it as a premium, and they went for a different crowd. But definitely a more highbrow crowd, not your usual manga crowd.
But they re-released Uzumaki, because they unflipped Gyo and Uzumaki, but that was
they released it in the premium, as I said.
It was like, I think it had the French flaps. Mm-hmm. Like, because this is when they re-released them as singles still, and I think it had the French flap. So like with like Doro Hedoro or like or the Natsume Ono stuff is released like that too. So, but then it just seems like in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, all of a sudden like he became super popular. So I just find it fascinating how that turned out.
I think it was similar to like Kago's art and stuff like that. When I look at that, where it goes to that type of person that it's not just manga art or comic art. It could just appreciate it as art, and it's more spectacle and stuff like that. Like Kago did a showing. I could have seen Junji Ito do something similar, like a gallery showing, just like Kago did 2 years ago.
I don't know who they would bring at this point, because
life would surprise you, I suppose.
Like they've gone the shoujo route, because
they've done Vertical and Viz, and who knows?
Well, I don't think Vertigo guests are going to come anymore, because Ed Chavez is not involved with
and
Vertigo
the reason
anymore.
Seven Seas, the way that happened, is her stuff was originally in Shogakukan. So remember, Viz is owned by Shogakukan Shueisha. So you can get stuff from other people, because they have been letting other things like Dark Horse and Seven Seas get some of their mangas. You know what I mean? So some of it is coming out because Viz can't release it all. It's just impossible.
Yeah, they finally relaxed on their stance on that.
Yeah, at least we got a better sense of the publishing side, of the book side.
Because Natsume Ono came, and then they can go the kids route because Akira Himekawa came, the two ladies that draw the Zelda comics.
Yeah, they definitely had like a program for kids and a program for all ages. So it's a really great one.
So
to
the
go
next
to.
logical step is to finally bring a Shonen Jump artist. Chris, you can do this.
Dare to dream, dude.
I hate to tell you that I think there is San Diego Comic-Con and Anime Expo have that on lock. So.
It doesn't need to be Tite Kubo or Kohei Horikoshi.
I think we can get Tite Kubo. I think we can get him. It's like it'll be no problem. And we'll actually get an autograph because he's not.
Get me the Food Wars creators, and then I can get my porn work signed.
What about what's his name that got his manga? What was it? That it's food and stuff like that. Really, he hunts the food or whatever.
Oh, Toriko.
Toriko, yeah, get that creator, and then you can see how that goes.
Okay. That criminal, okay. I'm actually rereading Toriko on the Shonen Jump app because I missed a lot of those chapters.
And now you look at completely different, huh?
It's fine.
Anyway, okay, so that's a thought. Way to go, 20 minutes. Okay.
I would love for Tite Kubo to come. Like, no matter how shitty Bleach became in the end, it is still my sentimental favorite.
I think Kevin can do it. He's going to get that guest for Anime North 2021. The quest starts now.
Yeah, right. I wish.
Okay.
I wish.
You just build a relationship.
Although apparently, there was always that rumor I heard that Chris talked to people and saying, hey, if you want manga guests, let me know. But then nothing came of it, obviously.
Okay.
Well, as they say, speculation.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward. Okay. But it just sounds interesting. And maybe if nothing else, I'd like to visit it in the future when I'm not sick, just to certainly soak in this feel. Because it does sound like a very differend vibe.
And it's free, so...
Well, that's true. And that too. Okay, let's move forward. Before we end this segment, a couple bullets. Crunchyroll news. So we've gotten a little bit more. Crunchyroll's gotten old school. Today, on the topic of sentimental favorites for me, Chemical Orange Road.
Yep. I found a week of discotheque.
I'm going to tell you, it's the week of discotheque. We wish we could talk to it with Mike Toole. He'll be coming to Anime North at length about this.
But it was weird. Like they had some stuff, and then they went to weird sites, and then this week it feels like a lot of the catalogs come back. But Core was one I don't think anyone would expected because it was Netflix Japan. Obviously, it wouldn't be Netflix in the other regions. But it would have been interesting to see that contract for streaming. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I wouldn't be a guarantee that you'd be able to do it. You know what I mean? Even though it's an older show.
Yeah. Well, you mean do what? Like,
well, given Netflix, you know what I mean? Even though it was just Japan, sometimes they have more stringent contracts and stuff like that because they want more of a worldwide thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're asking how the hell did Crunchyroll get away with it?
And well, no, it's because Discotheque and whatever. So it was on Discotheque side because they're the one who have the streaming contract.
Oh, on top of I suppose it's something like that. And aren't they the ones that kind of did or helped out with the restoration work in some form or something? Or
no, because that was all from the Netflix Japan. So that's why I'm saying that I'm not sure who Netflix Japan and the committee, but. They're the ones that got that restoration. They did the HD because you could only do the HD through Netflix Japan. So that would have thought, okay, maybe they'll just do it through Netflix or it'll be limited. You know what I mean, Mike?
Maybe.
But they're using that on the Blu-rays, which we've talked about.
Which I got,
I'm not sure about the Crunchyroll. I haven't seen the stream, I'm not sure about the quality.
And I'll tell you this much. I'm going to tell you one shock because yes, I've added it to my queue. I try and play it.
I did add it.
I'm sure you saw what happened then.
Oh no!
You try and hit the play button, and I get this error. I don't have you don't have permission to do this, quote unquote. What? This is on the iOS version. I'm able to watch it though. Remember when we had this discussion about...
so you can watch on the other ones, but not on that because it may be considered, I guess, risque? I don't know.
Well, you can always use that, like...
Well,
there's like some API or whatever where you can hack Crunchyroll so you can play without the ads on your phone.
Well, remember when a couple months ago...
Which I don't use, by the way.
Talked about not being able to watch School Days on an iOS copy
Oh, yeah.
on iOS
And
versions.
Sentai had the same thing with High Dive and stuff like that, and they've done some upgrades and stuff like that
And-
with
but you can
content, but
yeah,
you still can't watch certain things because I guess they
through
feel
certain devices.
because they're like, oh, these are cartoons.
I mean,
we can't be that aggressive.
Once again, we talk about it comes down to like if we're going to talk about risque items. Remember, we're the impression of Ayako herself, but
I guess it was risque because you did show us Core After Hours, Mike, when we originally did it.
well, back in the club days, it's like it caught my attention again. I couldn't do that, and then we were able to, but I was able to watch it on the computer. I do need to see side
And
by
on
side.
the TV and stuff like that.
Well, no,
probably,
the problem is I'm throwing. I'm throwing.
Oh
it from
yeah,
this
for
device,
that
so I
one,
wouldn't be
you're
able
throwing
to.
for that. But
I'm
for
throwing-
me, it probably would be fine for the console apps and stuff like that. I'm sure because they've never had issues.
Well, yeah, for console apps, but anything like
I know
think
Apple
but
related,
tvOS and iOS, Apple operating systems probably it would be problematic.
Yep, not family friendly.
On the topic of on the topic of something to watch, this is where Mohammed was sitting in the corner lounging. Mohammed and
Why
I.
would you say that? He's a part of the family,
Yes.
Mike. You can't.
Well, here's the thing. Like this was a shock to me to know that actually Fruits Basket is appearing on Crunchyroll. I thought this was supposed to be the linchpin of the separation.
I thought we talked to you about this, Mike, and saying that this was one of the surprises of the thing that the season that Crunchyroll was able, like it was TV Tokyo, I guess, is the one, or TMS or whatever that was doing it for licensing, and they made a big deal for Funimation, all that stuff, because they have the history and stuff like that. But it seems a lot of stuff, not all of Funimation stuff, some of it has made it over to Crunchyroll because of the actual licensors. Because if you look at what under the licensor section, it is in Funimation. It's like whatever Japanese production committee is the one doing the license to North America. You know what I mean?
So this would really, so its appearance would probably have nothing to do with.
It's basically about putting out a big net and trying to get as many people as you can. You know what I mean? And I guess streaming is more of the future they're seeing for that because we keep on hearing about physical media dying.
So they held it for themselves, essentially. The Japanese licensors.
Yeah, so they have maybe more control than we would think so that they can get it out to other things.
They were allowed to put that on.
And it's like, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. Look at Aniplex. They do a wide net for a lot of things and throw it to as many as they can. And that's through Aniplex, Japan, and USA. You know what I mean? Since they're the same thing.
And they can play a bunch of services. Okay, so we talked about this, and we can bring Mohammed back in so I can turn up his mic. We watched the first episode. And I want to, I couldn't help but think quite a bit about the original series.
Was that the first time you had seen the new series there, Mo?
Second time watching it.
So how far are you in it?
2 episodes.
I finished the first episode, so I contrast this with my memories of the very first episode of the original anime.
I think there's definitely a good mix.
I'd
say of both and stuff like that because we know the creator was very much involved in this version, stuff like that, because of her dislike of the first.
What was it that she disliked? Because it does have in some ways, yes, it's an almost verbatim
shot for shot
feel. At times, it has a different vibe.
It does.
So what happened here? Like, recap for me. Where did the schism start to happen between the creator and the anime director, or what is it over? Because here I am all these years later, so I'm trying to understand it a little more now that I've seen at least this first episode.
I guess
for what?
Fruits Basket. The remake.
Remember the schism between the creator and her dislike of the first series and stuff
like. Somebody explain this to me a little bit more.
But Kevin will give you a good Cole's notes here.
Give me a Cole's notes.
Was it Nabe Shin who directed Fruits
Basket?
No,
it was
I forgot who directed, but yeah, the way it was
done. I forgot now.
But especially given where it headed and stuff like that, I don't think it would make friends with the creator with how it went. And then you had the issue of, I guess, they changed some of the characters just a bit.
Oh,
with how they
was
did
Akitaro Daichi, who
I
think he directed Kodocha as well.
And
I think I'm gonna look through this right now.
I'm on my computer too. Thank you. And yes, he did. Kodocha was something he was involved in back in the day.
That sadly no one cared about here.
Well, they gave on all those hammers.
The manga's
remember the hammers?
The manga was great. Maybe that's a future Noma Noichi. We'll talk about this.
I remember Adam bitching about no second half of Kodocha way back when.
Yes. Well, the thing is, and now I can start to see some of that feel. Not looking back on it from the original series, and I guess it was what. So where did Takaya and Daichi start to disagree?
Well, I don't know the intimate details.
Just a general thought.
So, if I'm not mistaken, she didn't like how he directed the show because the vibe was not exactly the same, and the production committee liked Akitaro Daichi.
Oh, okay.
They saw no problem. This is just like offhand knowledge, second storytelling stuff. This is just stuff I've heard. But pretty much, more or less, they didn't see eye to eye. So, that's why.
I mean, artistic disagreements happen all the time.
And that's why with this new production,
before it would even go into production, she wanted full control before she would greenlight anything, but she didn't want to be effed over like the last time where once it's in the queue, right, they're going. You don't really get to stop it.
She wanted full control, and she wanted nobody from the original production back. Nobody.
Not even voice actors. I think the only ones coming back are on the English side.
Yeah, so some of them came back because, it's been 18 years since or whatever.
Laura Bailey and a lot of them wanted to come back.
I think Laura Bailey wanted to come back, but not everyone was able to come back.
Well, yeah, some of them have gone out of the voice acting field. I think two
and
of them.
Some have just been become super successful too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Laura Bailey is super successful, but
she's the one exception. It's just like don't expect Troy Baker to ever come back to do any of his anime roles, for example.
Well, I wouldn't say that because remember he came back for Catherine there, and that's Atlas, and Atlas is, you know what I mean?
Which
is anime-esque in their dubbing process.
The anime
series, that's a video game still.
And just to recap,
you know what I mean.
The original anime series ran from July 5th to December 27th in 2001. So that's how long it's been. 18 years. Almost 18 years now. So,
and that was their first attempt at diversification for Funimation, which is interesting too when you think about that. And they said that's one of their most successful anime series. Lance High School was talking about that on an Ancast. And how they proved that they can sell more than just Dragon Ball. Because they had I guess in the States, I don't remember seeing them as much up here, but they had the hats, the furry hats for
the
Fruit Basket, with the animal ears and stuff like that. And how he said they went in to get those stuff that they end up selling, but they started as freebies. Whereas like for Scooby-Doo, and he's like, we could use that and make it for Fruit Basket. And somehow they were able to prove the product.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that leads me now with us all talk about the schism. This leads me to what my impressions of the original, of at least watching episode 1. This show has there are still these humorous moments, but they're not slapstick wacky, which the original anime
there was a certain gravitas in the manga that wasn't there in the first series that definitely is back because she wanted that gravitas. It was definitely not your typical. Is an
interesting word. I was about to say
it's not your typical shoujo show.
Yeah, gravitas is an interesting word. I was about to use darker. Mm-hmm. It felt a lot more darker or serious.
Well, they said it's the shoujo Evangelion. That's what some people call it.
Okay, isn't that Kerry Kano?
That too, and we're talking the same company there. But that was an interesting. That just caught my attention. It just walked from that very first episode. Yes, in some ways it was verbatim, but it certainly did feel different. And it was
the tone is what I say. You can definitely see in the tone that there's a difference from out of the gate. And it's interesting how they're doing the full thing, as they said, even though I think it said first season on the thing, so they might be splitting this up.
Yeah. So this was it did feel quite different. And the thing is, the problem is, I think, that going back to not having the original voices back, what is Yui Horier's iconic role? Would it be Toru? Would it be Naru from La Fina?
Oh yeah, she did do Naru.
That's right, she did the big ones back then, yeah.
She was the it girl, right? Going back to her.
What does she even do nowadays? I'm not even being sarcastic. What does she?
Oh, well, obviously she's, why don't we look it up? But she's still kind of,
Check her LinkedIn there.
I know she took a break from acting for a time.
Check her LinkedIn.
She took a break, but she's still kicking around. I mean, she still does concert. She has started doing concerts. I think she took a break from the acting side to focus on other.
Yeah, no, I know
she's in her 40s now. Holy crap!
Yeah, no, my one of my crushes. We're getting there.
Oh my God, she's best girl Chie. Okay, now we're talking.
But she's kept up in some ways.
She's best girl Chie from Persona 4.
Yeah, there you go.
But we didn't get to have the Japanese cast, remember?
Oh, and she's best girl Hitomi from Dead or Alive. Oh my God, I didn't know she did Dead or Alive.
Yeah, no, they have quite a few gaming things in there too, so don't forget that.
Yeah, so but she's kept up. She's still very much kicking around. I told you about the King Records concert that NHK showed.
Mm-hmm.
On,
you talked about that before on the previous ones.
On previous episodes, right? She did that. She did a King Records concert in Shanghai, and they showed highlights of that. And I remember I showed you. I mentioned the video that she performed a live version of Vanilla Salt.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Okay, do you have another iconic role?
I was gonna say, what's up?
She's Katori from Da Capo. Best girl Katori from Da Capo.
Except that isn't licensed yet.
Yeah, that's never coming out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, unless Discotech needs new projects. But
there's tons to mine. That's
and yeah, Multi and Two Heart. There you go. Okay. They're on the topic of having an iconic character, but there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So there's but I just thought, there you go. That was a really interesting watch, and I will try and watch that as much as I can. Too bad I can't do it offline, and I will try and add that to my while alternating episodes of Goblin Slayer and Terrace House. So.
Those are two very different programs there, Mike.
Yes, we are talking.
One is like Berserk, and one is
it's a whatever. It's
a kinder Berserk.
Terrace House certainly is. And then so that's one mark. I guess we should talk. Let me talk Makoto Shinkai just for a couple seconds, because the trailer to his latest movie, Weathering with You, came out a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, and that's set for July, right, in Japan. Expect to hear more about that at Anime Expo.
Yeah, well, that's what they've been doing. It's just
a
big thing, and it's probably going to be Q4 movie theater release, because Shinkai and Hosoda, like, all their contracts are like, we want it in the theaters, we want the wide release, and then we get the Blu-ray after Japan, stuff like that. So, and they're pretty much the only ones who command that type of
yeah, it's pretty much them two right now. Yeah.
Who, once again, Shinkai and...
Yeah, Shinkai and that furry director, Hosoda, yeah.
You're never going to get his autograph if you said that furry director is like, oh, I'm just here to get an autograph of that furry director.
She's not going to listen to this. Come on.
Anyway, so we have this, and the feel I already have... Remember we had this feeling about, okay, how can you outdo yourself? You're just harping on the same ideas, and Weathering with You looks really nice. But this is like one of those, how do you follow up your name type things. We said this after 5 centimeters per second. How do you outdo yourself? And, well, let's see.
Well, he followed up 5 centimeters per second with the foot fetish movie, no?
Which, there was a period where...
which I enjoyed. I do like the Garden of Words.
Yeah, Garden of Words was really nice. It was short and stuff like that. And it was at Anime Expo as well. Like, Sentai was the one that licensed, and they had like this big party. I'm not sure Shinkai was there, but they had like this movie launch party, and there was a lot of green for Gardens of Words.
Yes, well, it's fetishrific. Okay. And, well, I mean, I'll be curious, and let's see what the reaction is, and, we'll eventually see it at some point.
Yeah, just wake me up when it comes out in Canada.
Well, it'll probably be closer than what we've seen for other things, because...
Probably a theatrical release.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
okay. Let me, when like it comes out, when I see it in a Cineplex, that is when I will go and watch it. And I'll evaluate
like
that.
Where it's like day and date.
Okay, so that's that. I'm sure we'll talk about that again. On the topic of theaters, Code Geass. Mohammed?
Oh,
do you want to? What do you want to say about seeing that? Just for a couple seconds before we.
Yes.
I will say it's always fun watching watching in a theater full of fans, The
So
reactions.
how full?
It was pretty full. It was
Thought the only thing missing was one of the voice actors.
Oh yeah, it was at
Thank you very
a
much.
young Dundas. So like at 4:00. So like
Was it a Tuesday? Did you get the Tuesday?
So
it
you
was
went
a
to a
Tuesday.
you went
So
to a
it was
fat-
weird. I
It was
went
a Tuesday
to
one.
Penguin Highway on the Tuesday, and I was thinking the same thing where these are special event type movies. So I'm surprised they give us the discount. That just butters you up even more.
It's ridiculous. And there's no commercials. Movie starts exactly at 4:00. Yeah, it was.
Get right to the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
right
some
to
of
the
them,
point.
I guess for that one, they didn't have any interviews. Like I went to Penguin Highway. That one was 11 Arts, so it's probably going to get a nice cheap release in Walmart, like a $20 up here later on. I think they said possibly August, and then a more expensive Right Stuff Collector's Edition if you want that. But Penguin Highway was a fun movie to watch. So is Oko's In, which is a G Kids one that's probably going to release Blu-ray DVD. They said July. That one
missed
was
that one.
interesting because it had a little interview before and the discussion of overcoming tragedy and stuff like that. And
Well, so what do we
of
say?
course,
So what do we say about Code Geass before we end this off? As we end this off,
well, I think Mo can pretty much sum it up. He got to have an enjoyable time with other people. He probably had the popcorn
Yes.
and just was sitting back and enjoying every moment, just like we did for Fate's Day night, except
Exactly.
more classy, less violence, less sex.
So Mohammed, yeah, tell us your experience about it.
just in a couple seconds, if you want. We can keep this as long as you want.
No, I mean it was a good movie. The plot was interesting. I forgot completely about the original, so I forgot that he.
Because it's after, right?
Right, it's like in the future after he's been.
But
gone
you
for a
don't
while.
have to have watched the previous one. Because
Exactly.
I think they probably set up.
Sort of.
You're saying the true fans?
Okay, so here's the thing. They made 3 recap movies prior to this, to the Lelouch the
yes.
Resurrection.
That's
So, Lelouch the Resurrection follows the timeline of the recap movies because they made some changes, and the changes were more relevant in the 3rd movie. So they retconned some things. Somebody stays alive. So
Okay, so I didn't
someone
know.
stays alive, and
I
was
remember the
happy.
series, but I don't know.
so pissed when that character died too in the TV show. But that's the thing. You have if you're there's gonna be a bit of a disconnect if all you watched was the TV series, which there was for me a little bit because I didn't bother watching the recap movies because I went to go see it. I went to go see it at the Winston Churchill. Also on the Tuesday, so I got my discount. But
Yeah, the 2 movies I saw, it's like we might have had at most 15 people in the theater, probably less, 10 to 15 people for the movies I saw. So it was just, you sit back, enjoy. It's like your own personal living room.
yeah, we had maybe
I'm sure Code Geass was definitely a lot more people.
we had maybe 30 something people because
many-
it was like
But
it
I
was
was at
out for
Winston-
2 or 3 days at that point.
But yeah, I was at Winston Churchill too, and I guess maybe you get less there.
Did you go on Sunday
For which?
for Code Geass?
No, I decided not to do that. It's like after doing all these events and those 2 movies, I'm like, I can't do every single movie under the sun.
How many were just before we end? How many in your theater
About
when you watch?
80% full. So like
Good crowd. Sounds like a good crowd.
And that was-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
downtown.
but downtown
Yeah.
Toronto
Yeah.
usually
On a
gets more.
Tuesday.
Well,
with
and
the
you're
half price
and
at
then
4 o'clock, it's
and
good
considering that part, we're talking Eaton Center and we're talking
Yeah.
near Tokyo Smoke. So
Tokyo
Those
Smoke?
do occasionally sell out. The
yeah.
prime screenings will occasionally sell out at.
I think when they did Brawley, a lot of the screens sold out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, across, and they had a wider release.
Oh, that
too.
was a good time.
yeah,
That was a good time.
Like
okay.
Fate had a wider release too, but some of them get
Young
more.
Dundas,
But at least
so
we're getting anything
soak
up
it in.
here. That's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Young Dundas Square. Soak it in, right? Anyway, and then so that's Code Geass, right?
Great movie.
If you know, well, it's kind of like me.
Great movie.
It's kind of like me dropping in to watch Fate's Day, Heaven's Feel too.
Yeah. You mean
Boy, did I feel
Well,
lost.
I was
Like,
surprised that when you said you came in, I'm like, wow, you're really just gonna drop right into this minefield, like right to start from this point.
that's
It's
sort
like,
of how. That's sort of sometimes how I roll.
Relived my high school youth because Code Geass was a big part of it. Okay, it wasn't a big part of it, but just I watched. So when I watched Code Geass, it was like Gao and it just kept on hitting you with cliffhangers. So I remember watching episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So the season had already aired. Then like the next day I watched episodes 2, 3, 4, and then like the day after, I watched episodes 5 through 9, and then
just
the weekend happened, and I just watched the rest of season 1.
You just went.
It was I had such a great time binging that show.
Yeah, I was going to say binge watch before it became a term, right?
And so I didn't suffer nearly as much as the fans did, because by the time I finished it, there was only 2 weeks before R2 started. Whereas in Japan, if you watched it as it came out, you had a 5-month gap between episode 23 and 24. And then because of the recap episodes, they had to slot in. And then the way season 1 ended, you had to wait another 9 months for season 2, and it was agonizing.
It sounds like Game of Thrones. Okay.
And season 2 was kind of shit, but the ending almost made up for it.
Kind of like unlike Game of Thrones.
It was the ending we didn't deserve for that movie. Because I feel like the ending for that movie...
I feel like you're just talking about Game of Thrones.
It ended... The way season 2 of Code Geass ended, they could have just left it. But this movie's still good.
It's good property.
Yeah, it was great.
It's like a lot of the ones, they're bringing back all those nostalgic ones. We said Fruit Basket, we said that. Lupin's been making a good comeback and stuff like that. Berserk, like a lot of them have just come, Fate's Day, like a lot of them have come back again and again.
Well, I guess we're trying to either reintroduce to a new generation of fans, or at least keep the ones that were there, or bring back the ones that were there. Anyway,
sorry for interrupting yet again, but are we doing one last break or no?
One last break. We'll do one more segment just briefly we'll do one last thing. Briefly, okay. And then, but with that in mind, last bullet, let's, the latest in the Vic Mignogna thing. The legal action has begun, and with that in mind, let's take the break. We'll wrap it up with looking ahead to Anime North right after this. It's the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network. Well, okay, so let's start to look ahead. First of all, once again, Anime Roundtable is proud to announce that we will be taping 2 episodes of the podcast on Friday night and Saturday night at Anime North in the Delta. And let's give the times. We'll be taping at 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday in the Halton Room near the Anime North Hall. I believe that's near the Anime North offices, in the main area. So if you have, well, I'm not expecting too much because we're going head to head against Anime Hell, the second half of Anime Hell on Friday. There's no way that we'll have much of an audience for that.
I hate that Anime Hell's on Friday night now.
The Saturday night.
And they're all the way in the North building, too.
Yeah, and they'll be all the way in the North building.
Well, but then it's because, Dave does Anime Hell on Friday, and then Neil Nadelman will do his thing on Saturday night. So.
Yeah, that's how they've always worked it. And I think that one's still in the Delta.
And Mike Toole, obviously, is coming up for Anime North as well this year again.
Man. So. I'm going to miss all those panels, because that's the one... When it comes to guests, the one shining spotlight is the panelists, because they always pull in good panelists.
And we talk about Helen McCarthy, we talk about Fred Schatz coming and stuff like that. So they've always got these very unique. That's a part of the DNA of Anime North.
They venture into that academia discussion debate side, where we can talk about this in a really, that type of form, in an almost academic type of form.
And Tim Eldred's come, and he's great if you like Space Battleship Yamato, by the way. But
we talked about how...
But that's what we're talking about.
But we talked about how they needed to stretch out, didn't we, Kevin? We were talking about that, where it's one of the few cons in North America where it still starts at like 4 p.m. on the Friday.
Yeah.
Everyone else starts in the morning, and Dave Merrill I think it was Dave Merrill, but a few of them made the point they wanted go to their friends' panels and do all this other stuff. And if they gave them like some more time and minutia in the schedule, like other cons,
so there's once again,
you know what I mean, like start earlier on the Friday.
Well, the thing is, once again, as the tradition of doing the Thursday evening,
and they have that Thursday evening. That's the question mark. If you have that Thursday evening, then why not extend Friday?
Well,
like other cons have done,
or at least to have a more extensive programming. But here we are, right? So once again, the anime. So So if you're curious to see some of the faces behind the voices you're hearing right now, why? For starters, but and then after you answer that question to yourselves, we will be. Well, at least I'll be. I don't know how many of us are. How many of everybody else will be there? We'll be in the Halton room come 11 p.m. Setting up and taping.
Did Neil say he was coming or not?
I have to give him a call. So we do have to give him a call. See, as I said, I have no clue. Like, and I'll be honest, because I've been sick for the last couple weeks or the last 2-3 weeks, I have not had chance to really focus in on preparing for Anime North. So we will be flying by the seat of our pants, I think by that time. So how we're going to do that show, how I'm going to produce those 2 episodes. Remains to be seen, and they will be late night. It should be interesting. So it'll probably be the most boring 2 hours. Enjoy anime hell. Anyway, but
all we need to do is like we did the one uncut episode, and they'll live forever in the vault.
Yes,
bring them in because they won't, and you have to be there to see it.
And if anyone out there is searching for it, so am I. Delete off the face of the earth.
I'm sure it's on my old hard drive somewhere.
Yeah. The other thing is, like obviously, we mentioned a bunch of panels. Neil Nadelman, David Merrill, Mike Toole will be doing something. Helen McCarthy, Fred Schott. Surely they'll all be doing it. I will probably be attending, trying to check out as much as I could in terms of the panels this year. Because I doubt I'll be doing too much in the way of voice actor chasing this year. This year myself.
Yeah, who cares about Ritsuko, man? Like everyone.
I believe there chases. There'll be autograph chasing. I wonder how it'll compare to IFF. I wonder how it'll compare to TCAF. I'm so sorry to hear that stuff happened there, James.
Well, hey, at least I got an autograph. I just got to get rid of this other book.
I'm just floored by some of these details.
You already got rid of the book.
No,
I mean I
saw it.
Anyway,
but anyway, I still laugh thinking about.
I will. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't get a chance. Sorry. Laugh at. Finish your thought.
I can't remember.
Okay. Before we really start promoting one other panel, I'll actually be doing. Nomanoichi.
Yes.
Let's talk about this for a couple seconds because I was rejected this year through the lottery. You got rejected for the first time this year through the lottery. My friend, who I mean, she is there and she's really relieved to have done this. Help me out here. Give me a thought because I know you're not happy about it. But give me a thought, and then I have a question, and I want a thought from there.
Okay, so the situation was that. Because of the demand that Nomanoichi generates for sellers nowadays, they decided instead of doing first come first serve on the first Sunday of April,
and we went through this. We talked about the story of that last year. So
they decided to
check the archive.
They decided to do a lottery system for the tables.
Mm-hmm.
You would think you would do a bit of first come, first serve, and then a bit of the lottery system, like a good mix, but even then, you'd still get problems.
So what they did was on a Thursday or Friday, the application process started.
On a separate website, yes.
They gave on a separate website, yes. They gave you
was it secure?
Well, I guess so. Well, who would want to hack that? Like, come on. And
would you, Kevin?
No.
Considering the feeling,
not that desperate.
Yeah, but considering the feeling these days.
So they gave you 4 or 5 days to apply, and.
I did. You did.
I did. So
we have friends who did.
So full disclosure, I am staff at AN, and staff had to apply too. Which is, you know what? Fine. I understand. It has to be fair. Selfishly, I didn't agree with that, but it has to be fair. So,
remember, full disclosure, I'm taping the podcast.
In full disclosure, we're the official podcast of Anime North.
Okay.
We bitch about them, but in any case.
I like the David Letterman feel of at times.
So yes, as Mike said, he failed, I failed, 2 of my other friends failed.
Before you succeed, you must fail.
Your friend got her table, and one of my friends got a table.
Yes, and so did and so did one of the people who the 1 year I was able to do it, she also got a table as well. The table beside on my other side that year.
So out of the goodness of my friend's heart, she was willing to let me share half of her table.
Oh, so you're doing,
and so that's why I'm doing it this year.
Cool.
I'm guessing there was probably quite a number of them that probably did that, since there were so many people that applied. Like, goodness,
there was around 240 something people who applied this time around.
So how did they pick it? Like, was it just out of a hat, ping pong ball?
I'm assuming they used some sort of
or
computer
just some
thing.
algorithm.
They did some sort of thing to figure it out digitally, and
random number generator. Heavens knows how those things work.
They should have just done it like the NBA for the draft and stuff like that.
So frozen envelope. Cool.
So here's my thought on all this. So there was 1 year where I went to SakuraCon, and registration for Nomanoichi happened on the Sunday that I was at SakuraCon, and when that process started, I was on an airplane flying back to Toronto. And even then, I was able to arrange for somebody to sign up on my behalf.
And you got it.
And so I got my table. So if you really want a table, be ready for it. Make your arrangements. I gave my friend my email password and everything, actually.
I guess that's what we should have done for those lines. Well, I should have paid someone to stand in line for me.
Yeah, that's how you get,
12 a.m. in the morning.
That's how you get those sneakers.
Is that how you get the marijuana too?
No.
No.
Please, I know people who still use dealers because they don't want to deal with lines. But in any case... But in any case, yeah, one of my former workmates, she still uses her dealer actually. But in any case, so if you really want to sell at this flea market, then you should be ready to sign up when it's ready, because it's on a Sunday night.
Well, back then, but then
that's when, because most people are free on Sunday night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can go ad nauseum because of what happened, the email issues from last year. So.
Oh yeah, that was pretty BS. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal in and of itself. Okay.
So yeah, I'm like, so was there really any need for a lottery system? I don't think so. And yes, my opinion's a little selfish, but it's like, it wasn't as if it would disappear. It's not like Artist Alley where the slots disappear in 3 seconds. If you sign up,
which had me wondering, where were you approaching that point?
I don't think, sort of.
So, I mean, maybe that was in the minds of the organizers when they saw on a lottery system, or maybe because of the server issue.
I don't know what
maybe
he's
it's
thinking.
more the email server issue.
Maybe they were looking to Japan because that's how they do things for all the hired items. It's like you go in, you see if you have the number, and if you have the number, you can go and purchase it. If not, then good luck.
A lottery.
So to me, it's I didn't think it was necessary. I don't think we were slowly getting to that point, but it wasn't.
You don't think we were there yet?
You could still sign up 2 or 3 days after
the opening.
Back
then.
Even last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by back then.
And the crazy thing is, it's so massive right now because it's in the TCC. And remember, it used to be at Sheridan in that one big ballroom.
And
it's outgrown. But a lot of things.
And I also feel it's a little... This is just personal opinion. So to those sellers who go to Japan just to buy a bunch of merch to resell... a little disingenuous of you to sell that stuff there, but it kind of defeats the whole point of it being a flea market, but I digress.
I know my friend told me they had heard about some people not getting in and searching for tables, and
yes, that did happen.
And she had a Schadenfreude type of moment, kind of reveling in somebody's despair on that one. Certainly was happy.
Yeah, there were some people
certainly
scrambling.
Happy to hear about that.
There are some people who I recognized are regular, they sell every year. They were trying to scramble to get tables.
So I mean, the ones who are genuine, you felt bad for. The ones who had ill intent.
Well, I don't know who those people are, but it's just I know those people exist.
Yeah, those with ill intent. Hi, Squirrely. No, No, because ill intent is the nickname of Squirrely's spouse.
Yes, so that's right.
That's where you hold your feelings, I suppose. Give me a thought. Give me a thought of this, because my friend told me you had to have confirmed your pass into Anime North to be able to apply for Noma Nochi.
Yes.
Yes. And that's, I guess I was in trouble right from the get-go because I hadn't confirmed at least my, I think at the time of the sign-up, I hadn't confirmed the tapings yet.
But for me, my question was...
first of all, how
do you confirm that if you
that's
are
my
on
question
staff,
mark.
you know what I mean?
Like, that's the thing. So how are they going to confirm that I was staff then?
Yeah, and
that's what I wondered.
Or that I would be...
Is it because we're on the staff list? Is that the thing?
So
I don't know.
I'm hoping I would assume they had the staff list. I don't know.
Because we're on the list.
And it was strange because, and same for myself, because I by that point, I had yet to fully confirm the tapings. But it was strange because when I did get in touch with Norm and Eileen, with the McAvoys, they said, we've been waiting to hear from you. Mm-hmm. So they knew I was coming back.
And my friend is staff this year for the first time too. So unless she bought a pass beforehand, which I don't think she did, like I'm going to assume they did have a list. I'm going to assume that they did.
Okay. As I said, I know you're disappointed. From my standpoint, I'm okay. I'm not too mad about this because I guess because it means I can focus on the podcast instead of having to. So at least with being ill, at least nothing else is compounded. So I guess my copies of the Kodocha DVDs, the manga, and the final volume of Welcome to the NHK, they will have to stay in the vault for another time.
Well, if you want to give me some stuff that you think will sell, just let me know.
I'll give you some maybe, but it's just perfunctory stuff.
Yeah.
But which I don't really personally don't care about, but it's long out of print, so maybe it gets something.
I won't even ask for a cut.
I appreciate it.
Because I do. Because usually with other friends, if they ask me, I do ask for a cut.
I'll get you a box of Pocky or maybe
no, it's okay.
Or green tea arrow. So
those don't exist. I thought.
But there's I'm as I said, I'm managing. It's not I'm managing. This is just let's just move on. On that note, and I forgot to mention. Okay, so I mentioned the podcast taping. And I mentioned I'm doing a panel on podcasting. I'm helping do a panel on podcasting.
Oh yeah, that panel happens every so often.
Yes, and it will happen again this year. And this time around, I made sure to be able to sit on it.
And you sat on it, I think, once before.
Well, I hope because we hosted probably one of the first podcast panels back in like 07, 08, or 09. I forgot which exactly.
Who else is moderating that panel?
The host of the Nickcast. So, Fanthropological, and I'll give you the list, and I will give them a shout out in the second episode because I think they do deserve this because in many ways they'll be helping me. That panel, by the way, will happen in Delta Plaza B Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. So, running a podcast. That's the panel I'll be sitting on. We'll be talking about podcasting in this day and age. This is my question. That's because. Having played Arsenio Hall or Tom Snyder or Rip Van Winkle for the last near decade, I've let a lot of the podcasting stuff get ahead of me. So I don't know how to. So from my standpoint, marketing a podcast is kind of hard for me now. Where can you find your niche? Where are you able to find your audience? Well, the other part is maybe I'm not really trying because maybe right now I care about more of for those that do listen that they are enlightened. That they enjoy the shows as they are to the few that do listen to this show. Although 2 hours 36 minutes.
Just to let you know, Mike, some commutes are very long. I want to let you know.
Well, that. I mean, as I said, if to those listeners who really need to get to sleep.
I'm just waiting for Mo to end the podcast like he usually does.
Yeah, snoring. Oh, okay. You all right?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. But there's that thought there, and I look forward to actually doing this and touching base with these guys. I will, after the taping, I'll give you guys the names of the podcasts they do, and if you're able to come out to that panel, please do. If you two are able to, I think you'll be busy though.
Yeah,
I understand because you're helping out with one of the guests.
Yes. Also, related to panels. I'm curious because Chris Beveridge from Xanon, he's gonna do a few panels too.
Are you Chris Beveridge or Jesse Beveridge?
Jesse, sorry.
Jesse.
Not,
I was
not,
gonna say Chris
not
Beveridge
Mania,
is
not
completely
Mania,
different.
Not Mania.com Chris Beveridge. Yes, Jesse Beveridge.
Well,
I'm
when
sorry.
we say
Sorry, Jesse.
Wait, Chris Beveridge. When we're talking Chris Beveridge, are we talking
Former Anime on DVD,
yeah.
but now it's
Fandom
Mania.
Post,
Oh, it's
yeah.
Fandom Post now.
Fandom Post.
See, I stopped going on Fandom Post for a
and
couple
then
years now.
but we're talking Jesse Beveridge.
Yes, so he's
The
doing
host
some
of Xanon, the Xanon podcast.
He's doing a crazy anime death panel, and I'm curious how he's gonna do it because another popular podcast person does his version of it at different cons. Daryl Surratt, and crazy
anime. Well, I mean, this is so, but that sounds so up his alley.
So Surratt
and Betteridge, I know, are good friends.
Because I was amazed that nobody attempted that kind of panel at AN yet. Now we'll see how.
Let me see how this goes. Maybe I can take.
I'm hoping I'm free for that, unless it's happening during the podcast. Then oh well.
I doubt it is. I doubt it is. I'd love to do that. Let's see that because if if somebody can take that mantle in the future, and I've been looking to try and do panels myself. Although maybe I'm out of the loop too. I actually proposed to doing an HK World panel myself since
that would fit right in though.
That would fit, but as far as nope.
I know we wouldn't have many people in the audience, but still.
Nope. So
depends on the timing.
Yeah, I guess.
You would want it near where Helen McCarthy and they are in that panel room.
And
it's more of the educational and more of the academic type thing because it would work well with those type of things. And if they're already in the room, they might want to stick around.
Dude, there's always next year. Anyway, but that's all that, and that's sort of where we stand. Anime North, of course, is next weekend, and some of us will be there. Mo, are you going?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not.
Don't worry about it. I mean, enjoy the weekend. It's a hectic weekend. I mean, it can be. It's one of those. Yeah, it's Anime North. It's the icon in Canada on that topic, right?
It's like for
better or worse.
For now, crazy.
For better or worse,
for
I guess.
Now.
But it is the icon, and the whole on that topic of where does it sit now? Where does it sit now for Toronto fandom? And is there a budding rivalry of any sort? But
give the Vancouver people a few years.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Interesting. Okay. But that's it. So that's our plans for Anime North. James will be in his usual spot, helping out the late night programming. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, he'll have some time to do it. Otherwise, I could very well be doing a solo show on Friday night.
Don't worry. I've planned it so that there's some longer stuff at the beginning. And
I think we're doing
it so I can.
I think we're doing Digest 3.
Although I will plug one thing there.
Yes.
The Anime North fashion show will be on the Saturday afternoon. A lot of people work hard for that, and they usually see some pretty interesting stuff. So if you're into fashion of any sort, I'd say come check it out.
Lots to see and do. This is the thing about Anime North. There's something to do for everybody, and you certainly won't see it all in one weekend. Mm-hmm. And once again, it could be it's a for better or worse scenario because we can have that debate, and we could have it hours on end, but.
And there's so many sites too, as we say. It's like
there's so many sites and other ways to get there. It's a thing. It's still Anime North. Once again, is still the icon, and so we hope you'll join us. So we hope. Well, if you're going out, we hope you'll join us. Join us at least on the tapings to wind down each of the days, each of the Friday and Saturday with us
at 11 p.m.
Well, at 11 p.m. if you don't care about anime hell.
I don't think we started 11 on the dot, but
I'd probably be watching Anime Hell myself if I if I wasn't having to do the podcast. That's sort of how it ends up going.
Mike, you could just not do the podcast on Friday and have one podcast on the Saturday, and then you can go enjoy Anime Hell. I'm not even joking.
I know. Or you could do the podcast at Anime Hell. They just won't notice us because they're so loud.
So, but enjoy that. So if you're going to Anime North, enjoy the show. And hopefully maybe I can see some of you. But if you don't and want to get on any of our cases, either for anything that myself or James or Kevin said or whatever Mohammed didn't say. Our Twitter handle is @Anime Roundtable. AnimeRoundtable.com is our website. Really, we don't update it. Look on your podcast catchers. Nothing really gets updated.
Anime honest.
Huh?
At least you're honest.
Not quickly. AnimeRoundtable@gmail.com is our email address. And yes, please write us. I'll try and reply after I get over my latest bout of nausea. And Six Talk, you can check the archives at sixtalk.com. And yes, the whole run of the series is on your on the most popular podcast catchers like Google Podcasts and iTunes and Apple Podcasts. So check us out there. Mm-hmm. And we'll be back, of course, at our usual place. And then after all that, we'll be back at the 6 Point Studio for future episodes. But I think that's it because, God damn it, we've gone long enough.
Are we at 3 hours yet?
Nope. 2:40. According to this clock, 2:43. Let's call it an episode.
Oh God.
And besides, some of you
haven't even beat Avengers yet.
What?
Oh wow! Way to go. Good.
What about Avengers?
Because Avengers was 3 hours.
Oh.
We're not quite there yet.
Nope.
We're not quite there yet, and mercifully, we won't make it. I'm gonna have another candy. Let's call it a night.
Yeah, it was fun.
Let's call it a night. As I said, after 2 months of not doing anything and a month of not talking at all, we had a lot on the mind. So I'm glad we did this episode to prepare for Anime North and just to test if I'm feeling well. I'm feeling okay. Overall.
Good to hear.
Nice. Overall. So that's it for tonight. Join us at Anime North, and we'll see you there for another episode, for the Anime North episodes of the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network.